These are the cars people dream about, the brands that we aspire to own. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, Audi, Nissan, Mercedes, McLaren. Driven by some of the world's most highly coveted racers, masters of their trade. Mount Panorama is their place of business. Once known as the Gold Country, now the spiritual home of motor racing for Aussie and international motorsport fans alike. A place where speed and endurance are everything and where drama is routine. Drivers must endure 12 grueling hours of some of the most feared yet respected tarmac. It is a challenge that man and machine struggle to meet.
Oh, there it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4 spins. Oh, it's torrential at the top of the mountain. There's nowhere. And Gisbergen's lost the front end of the Porsche.
A challenge that delivers heartbreak or pure delight. It is a challenge called the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour.
Hi everyone and welcome to Bathurst. Now this is an important part of Australia, not just for motorsport, but it's typical of this part of the world. We're in the central west region of New South Wales. The population of Bathurst is around 40,000, but a couple of times a year it swells. And this weekend it's for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour GT race. Now 2 centuries ago this place was all about gold. Everyone was trying to strike it rich and make themselves famous. Things haven't really changed though. Down the road at the Mount Panorama motor racing circuit, the gold is still being chased. Instead of picks, spades, shovels and pans, they're here with high-tech, internationally regarded GT3 race cars, some of the best drivers, engineers and mechanics from around the world and indeed from here in Australia. The entry list this year is over 40 cars, some of the best names from V8 supercars, some Formula One experienced drivers as well. The level has gone up in 2014. The entry list is a cracker and this race is bound to be this year.
This year's 12-hour field is rich in talent and the number of cars and pilots from overseas has gone through the roof. Defending winners Erebus Motorsport have again entered 2 of the throaty V8 SLS AMG beasts. New V8 supercar signing Will Davison heads one local car, while defending winner Bernd Schneider leads the other, packed full of German talent.
I never compared my titles or winnings. I mean, it's always something special winning such a big event. It's always great to win, and I don't want to compare. Even last year was really hard because we have been here first time. The circuit is very tough to learn, and we won it straight away. I mean, this was something really special, and I don't know if it could be better, but you can ask me after the race.
20 years ago in 1994, John Bowe and Craig Lowndes fought out a Bathurst 1000 that put the latter on the map. Around the same time, Mika Salo was making his Formula One debut in a Lotus. This year, all 3 combine in a Ferrari for the Maranello Motorsport team, and Lowndes is chuffed by the thought of his first ever race aboard a Scarlet Racer.
2 weeks ago, to have a test day at Phillip Island, to feel what the car's all about. It's a rear engine or a mid-engine car like what the Audi is, so the handling of it's very similar. But the cockpit's obviously very different and something that I'm getting used to. Trying to get first gear, you've got to have a clutch in, you've got to put neutral, then you've got to select the gear. And so the process of things is a little bit different, but look, it's amazing. The sound of the engine is like music to your ears. It's got a little bit more horsepower, it's faster in a straight line, so what couldn't you love about it?
A Nissan GTR hasn't been an outright contender on the mountain in a race for over 2 decades, so there are plenty of eyes on the factory Nismo entry featuring Rick Kelly.
look, it's very special for me to bring back that car to Bathurst in the form that you see it, and you see the photos and the vision from it around the track here, and it's a special moment. I mean, we only have 3 days of track time here, and you know, we're certainly making the most of that, and we're going to be sad when Sunday night comes, knowing that who knows when it will come back again. I certainly want to take that car and put it in my lounge room, but I'm pretty sure that they're not going to let me.
The Phoenix Racing team won this race in 2012 and are back with a gun international lineup featuring 3-time Porsche Super Cup champ Rene Rast, reigning FIA GT champion Lawrence Vanthoor, and the only female in the race, Rahel Frey.
We have a very, very strong lineup. We have a good car, a good team, so the ingredients are there to win this race, but obviously we have some good opponents which are quite fast, and yeah, of course the race is long, it's 12 hours. Many things can happen in 12 hours, but yeah, the general feeling is very good. When I was a kid, I played this circuit already on the PlayStation, and I always said I would love to race here, and now it's my first time, and it's even better than I expected. The track is just amazing, especially the fast parts are just amazing, and especially with the Audi. Our Audi is quite strong in the fast corners. It's yeah, just incredible.
While the winner of this year's race should come from the 15 cars in the outright GT3 class, Class B is a bit more Hollywood, and for good reason. Aussie man of the screen and all-round good guy Eric Banner is back for another taste of the 12-hour, but for the first time in a GT car. If Banner's team want to win Class B, they'll have to topple 2 former Le Mans 24-hour GT winners in Brit Oliver Gavin and American Patrick Long. They've raced V8 supercars on the Gold Coast, but Bathurst has taken a little longer to get to.
Yeah, it's a much different backdrop than the Gold Coast. It's certainly a new exposure to culture in the country. It seems as though the town, similar to Nürburgring or Le Mans, sort of lives for racing and comes alive when a big race such as the 12 hours is in town. So great to be here. Certainly more exposure the better to Australia. I love this country, and the racing culture and the people are really cool. It's sort of a blend of the Americans and the Europeans, and they know they're racing, so it's fun.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, what a great track. I mean, it's just got everything you want in a racetrack. It's got fast corners, it's got tricky corners, it's got huge elevation changes, it's got things, blind crests, and, walls super close, bit of runoff in places, a great long straight. Really looking forward to the race and what that's going to hold for us. Who knows? It's 12 hours. Every endurance race is sort of a bit of a new book, and you start writing it from hour one, and there's all kinds of experiences and different bits and pieces that will happen, and whether that's something that happens on track or in the pit lane, or something happens with the car or a driver or certain incidents, but yeah, it's always an adventure.
Action started early at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour, in fact early in practice. After a red flag, an Audi and 2 Ferraris came heavily together at the top of Mount Panorama. The unfortunate victim, Tony D. Police and Vicious Rumour Racing. They were out for the weekend after that hit. The AF Corsa car would be repaired and would do more laps later in that day, but it was an early exit for the Melbourne-based Ferrari team that had such high hopes this weekend. The classes and qualifying Class I for the Mark Ford Focuses. There were 3 of them, brand new global endurance races, and it was the number 70 car that took pole position, with Grant Denyer back behind the wheel sharing with Adam Gowans, Gary Jacobson and Andrew Miedeke right on their benchmark lap time in the class of a low 2:15. Class F, appropriately, is the battle of the Fiats, and while car number 96 was second, triple Australian Drivers champion Paul Stokel took the class pole in the 95 car with a time that would have put them in the top 10 outright back in the production car days at Mount Panorama. Class D, the Daytona Coupe, was competitive and second in class with a 2:25.2, but their weekend turned sour with a hefty crash late in the day that would need an all-night rebuild. In Class D, it was the E46 GTR that took pole position. Second place in Class C, which is for GT4 spec cars, was the British-based motion sport Lotus Exige. They did a good job, but the Ginetta G50 took the class pole. Carl Reinler doing a good job in the British-built sports car. In Class B, for the slightly older specification GT3 race cars, it was the Rotec Racing Audi R8 LMS that took the class pole, with World Touring Car champion Rob Huff, and four-time Le Mans winner Ollie Gavin amongst a very strong driver lineup. In the outright GT3 class, the action started early. A big crash for V8 ace Jason Wright at the top of the mountain took the Squirk Audi out of the equation. Meanwhile, Mika Salo was the flying Finn early in qualifying on Saturday, taking provisional pole into the 2-minute and 3s for the first time at Mount Panorama. AF Corsa had a big crash and they were out of the running for the weekend. And then this guy fired, Maru Engel, with a very, very speedy 203.85. Took pole, took the Alan Simonson pole position trophy by just half a tenth of a second. It was a remarkable day of qualifying ahead of the competitive Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great start to the weekend for all the boys. You know, everyone's done a great job and worked really hard, and all the drivers have turned good laps. You know, really happy my teammates are doing a really good job, pushing really hard as well, and we've done all that without putting a scratch on it, and we start first, so it's a great reward.
Lots of emotion after qualifying. Bruce Morrison from Motoractive and Liqui-Moly presenting the trophy to Erebus Motorsport, the Alan Simonson pole position trophy, or just the Al. And Betty Clemenco went and celebrated with Mark Coffey from Maranello Motorsport. That was the team that Alan Simonson used to drive for.
Such a big event needs such a big sponsor, and there is not one better than Liqui-Moly for this particular event. Bruce Morrison, this is your baby. It's taken on an incredible international flair. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's an exciting time for us. It's only our second year on the event, and it was always an objective to make sure it was seen as an international event. These cars are definitely international. We wanted to make sure people could see what international motorsport really looks like.
Drivers from all over the world have made this their priority. You have American champions, British champions, European champions. What does that mean in terms of making this event more global?
It's incredible, you know. They're probably the best known people that Australians don't know. There's all these names that people don't know, how many championships different people have won and how many titles people hold. And look, I think that's an incredibly exciting thing as an Australian to bring those sort of people to Australia, and they've got that much interest in the race. It's a great time for us.
This has always been a great Australian race, but now it's becoming a great international race. How does Liqui-Moly contribute to that?
Well, look, it's an important thing for us. Liqui-Moly is an international brand. We're a lot of relevance, of course, in motorsport, being a lubricants with oils and additives. But that connection to the rest of the world is a key part of the strategy to build a brand these days. So having it seen across the world is really important to us and very exciting.
So what are the plans to continue this growth into the coming years?
Well, growth-wise, we have a long-term relationship with the promoter of this event, so we see long-term prospects. Everything we go into, we have a long-term view. So we're in this for the long haul, and we see it only getting bigger and better.
Why motorsports? Why this race?
Well, the 12-hour, I thought, had all this potential, but wasn't there yet. And that's a great time to get involved. If something is at the top of its game, it's harder to make an improvement. We think we've come in, made a contribution, but we thought it was underdone with lots of potential, and we think we can help it get it right there.
Well, you're doing a very good job of getting it there. In only your second year of Liqui-Moly sponsorship, drivers from all over the world have made this the #1 choice for them to compete in this year.
It's a beautiful morning at Mount Panorama, overlooking the city of Bathurst in the central west region of New South Wales as we get set for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour of 2014. And a big field, the strongest ever, set to tackle that famous mountain over 12 hours of racing, and who knows what sort of records could be set over the course of the day. The field assembled on pit straight, final preparations, final checks put in place, and so many contenders in this field. The white HTP Mercedes there, they could be a chance. Grant Denyer making his debut, his return to the 12 hour in the Mark Ford Focus. He'll be a contender, and we'll be following the stories today of the little Fiat 500 Abarths. Great little race cars that have been surprisingly quick. Now the field just assembled not too far away from this pre-dawn start. We'll have about 5 minutes of running before the sun rises, and we'll have that fantastic first hour of lap records and hot pace on the mountain. Peter Cox to start the Lamborghini. Finally looks like he'll get his first racing laps of Mount Panorama in 3 attempts of coming to Mount Panorama. This will be his first racing laps. That's why he's behind the wheel of the number 23 car. So many contenders, and this one has to be right up there as one of the favourites. On the front row of the grid, the Maranello Motorsport Il Bello Rosso Ferrari. Craig Lowndes behind the wheel, start alongside the Erebus Motorsport Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. So the strongest, deepest field ever assembled at Mount Panorama for a 12-hour endurance race rolls off for their formation lap. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we go racing at Mount Panorama for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour.
Perhaps the most appealing part about the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour is the vast array of makes and models on the grid this year. In terms of the outright GT class, each team has essentially asked themselves a question about which car suits them best. They need strengths and weaknesses, they all have them. Is it a case of, do you have a car that's better on tyres, that's better on fuel, that has more torque, more top-end power, or perhaps a better focus on aerodynamic grip? There's a whole range of things to take into account when you choose your weapon for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour, so who better to weigh up the pros and cons of each car than the drivers who pilot them?
The Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG GT3 is sort of strong, but not the best in every area, so that combines to a really good lap time. So it's pretty good, pretty decent down the straights. It's not the fastest like the Nissan GTR, will be quicker down the straights, but therefore we do have good downforce, albeit not the same downforce as the Audi, so the Audis will be a bit quicker in the faster corners, but then overall over a lap time it really compares favourably and produces great lap times.
It's a great car, it's got a lot of aerodynamic kind of grip, so up in Bathurst, up through the mountain, the car is really, really good, really planted, and it's fantastic on the brakes. Where it lacks maybe to the other cars like the big Mercs and stuff is maybe just grunt down the straight, but over the mountain I think it's absolute joy to drive.
Our Audi is quite strong in the fast corners and on braking, so we can dive quite deep into the corners and carry a lot of speed into the corners, but our weakest point obviously is the straight line speed. This is where we struggled already in the last years, and it's still the same. So the Ferraris and Nissans and Mercedes are overtaking us like we are standing still on the straights. So we are losing a bit time on the straights, but therefore we make a bit time up in the corners and on the braking.
Certainly it's faster than the Porsche down the straight, but probably not as nimble around the top of the hill and through the traffic, but awesome car. It's good down the bottom of the hill, so along the straights and under braking, probably its strengths, and that's probably good for passing and through the traffic as well. So I think we've got a strong race car, and we're on Pirelli tyres, which for the race will be strong through the longer stints.
The Lamborghini is probably one of the lighter cars in the field, and with the balance of performance through the FIA, the Lamborghini ends up, compared to when we were here last year, with a slightly bigger air restrictor in the engine and about 30 kilograms less weight. So technically it's better for us, but also through the homologation process, we've ended up with a lot more downforce. So downforce equals drag. We've got some big long straights here, and inevitably that slows us down a little bit. So we're constantly working with that balance to try and tune the car for the straight, but maintain the grip. The advantage that we have is the aero and the downforce.
It's very strong up the straights here at Bathurst. If we run the qualifying map, we can pull in the SLS very easily and pass them down the straight, which is pretty different for me, particularly comparing to last October here at Bathurst. The SLS, Mercedes and a couple of the other cars are very strong across the top of the mountain. For us that's okay. We'll extend the limits a little bit more and take the line a little bit more as the weekend goes on and we get more confident. For us, having the strength down the bottom of the hill makes a good passing opportunity for us, there's no doubt about that. And we just got to make sure that we're nice and careful with the fuel usage, because 12 hours is a very long time. If you use more fuel than others, you're going to have to be pitting a few times extra, and that's not what we want to achieve.
Not far from green at the Liqui-Moly 12-hour. The field's set for the rolling start. The clock has officially started counting, but we're not officially racing yet until they get the green flag. Burnouts for the Mercedes. We're about ready to go. Here's John Hindhoff.
The safety car is in the pit lane. We are revving up somewhere in the region of 30,000 horsepower. They're being held back on the pit like thoroughbred racehorses as they come down to Maguire's. The clock has already started. The Erebus Mercedes on the inside, heading up to the first left-hander. We're waiting for the green flag, and the 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours is... Oh, long hold, now racing, and look at the guys coming up from the back. We said it would be a very slow start indeed, and Nissan gets a good run down the outside there and has to be careful not to be hung out, but everybody makes hell corner for the first time. Look at the Porsche coming through, one of the Class B cars, right through the middle, but it's the Erebus Mercedes from pole position up the mountain straight for the first time.
Nico Bastian, the young German, behind the wheel with Craig Lowndes behind in the Ferrari, up to turn 2 for the first time. There's a battle for third. Clark Quinn, the GT champion of Australia, up the inside of the Nissan and gets the McLaren into third where they qualified. It's Jack LeBrock behind the wheel of the second Erebus Mercedes, 5th in the queue at the moment, holding their position from their qualifying effort. Then a bunch of Audis, they were fighting 3 wide as they got into turn 1, but everyone clean to the top of Mount Panorama for the first time.
The guys were sat down by the race director yesterday afternoon and told in no uncertain terms to behave themselves early on. You're talking to a bunch of sort of bleary-eyed, raring-to-go racing drivers. First thing in the morning, you can see that Mercedes-Benz is very, very low indeed. The sparks coming from the titanium skid plates on the outside edges of the splitter at the front. Mercedes then from Ferrari, from McLaren, then this gaggle of cars from 4th on down. Thought the Nissan has got a good start, but Rick Kelly just dropping back into 4th position as they go across the top for the first time.
Now, happy hour usually is from 5 till 6, the end of the race, but I think the first hour will be happy hour in terms of lap time, because these are perfect conditions for fast lapping of this 6.213 kilometre circuit, with the Mercedes in front, the Ferrari in second, the McLaren in third. This will be a good time to keep check of our lap record. It's 2 minutes and 6.33. set by our late great friend Alan Simonson 2 years ago. Almost a certainty that will go probably within the next 5 laps. We'll keep track on what the tyres and temperatures are doing and see how fast they go.
So coming down to the completion of the first racing lap, remember the 12-hour clock started counting down as soon as the BMW Liqui-Moly pace car started rolling. Fantastic shot looking backwards from the Nissan, I think, as they go across the line and down towards the left-hander, and the first lap time starting to come in. And that is what Rick Kelly is looking back on, and he's pulled a 2 or 3 cars gap there. Down in the Erebus pit lane, the man on the right-hand side is Bernd Schneider, who won every race bar 1 that he entered last year for Mercedes-Benz. And in endurance racing, that is some record. Those were their closest competitors, the Ferrari team sitting in second. This has been, and I'm going to find some wood and touch it immediately, this has been a really good, fast, competitive but sensible start by everyone. We've got everyone over the mountain for the first time, and now they're head up the cutting on the racing lap number 2.
Rick Kelly behind the wheel of the Nissan GTR Nismo GT3 from the Nissan Athlete Global team. Running very nicely, a man with so much experience. Jack LeBrock behind him at completely opposite ends of the racing spectrum. LeBrock, just a 3rd-year driver at a national championship level. Behind them, Peter Cox, one of the best drivers in GT racing anywhere, and a man that's basically been wholly responsible for developing the Writer Engineering Lamborghini package that he's driving with Roger Largo and David Russell, the 23 car this weekend. Behind them, Stephen Richards, who won here in October 6 months ago so brilliantly and continues to be one of the best in the business. In that Lamborghini is 7th. Thomas Jaeger is next in the number 84 Mercedes from HTP Motorsport. They're up to 8th place. Good, strong early start from them. Behind them, Phoenix Racing, champions of this race 2 years ago for Audi. Lawrence Vanthorpe behind the wheel. And Ollie Gavin, the 4-time Le Mans class winner and American Le Mans Series champion for Corvette, is driving an Audi. He's 10th and 1st in Class B.
And that is a real, I suppose, gesture of support for Ollie Gavin. He's not been here before. He's had a handful of laps, and then he's given the responsibility of starting that car, and he leads the Class B field at the moment. You'll hear us talk about the different classes throughout this 12-hour race. We've got 2 GT3 classes, Class A and B, and basically they're split by how old the cars are. There's a slightly different specification, but we won't bore you with all the technical details. Class C is what is effectively FIA GT4 cars, and then we've got Class D, which are, if you like, more touring-based cars with a 3-litre engine or above. And then a couple of invitational classes where we'll find the Fiat Abarths and the new Ford GTC endurance racing cars, the rear-wheel drive Ford Focus with the big Ford V8 crate motor up front, which is proving such a fan favourite early on this week, right from early on this week here at the mountain. So no accident, no incident, and a 2:07.5 for Nico Bastian on full tanks, and they will have brim-filled the tanks at the start of this race, Paul, because they will want to get as deep into the race as they possibly can and get some fuel numbers.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Nico Bastian was very interesting when we heard from him on the grid. I mean, they're very clear that they're going to be double stinting the tyres, the driver as well. So you don't want to be pushing super hard on with a full tank of fuel on a set of tyres that's going to have to last you for probably the best part of 2 hours. We expect the tank of fuel to last them, I'm reckoning, in the order of 28 laps, maybe 29 laps, but it's around about an hour in any event. And then they'll be coming in, as Nico was indicating, first stop will probably be get the fuel in, get the car on its way again, don't do anything else, just tighten the belts and send them on their way.
So Bastian running down into the chase. His margin is a second, but Craig Lowndes going with him at the moment. This is a real interesting developing little battle pack with Rick Kelly just backing up Jack LeBrock. And congratulations, Peter Cox. This is his third visit to Mount Panorama. Finally, he's got a racing lap. Incredible. And Nico Bastian breaks the lap record on lap 3, 2:06.09. Well, it was inevitable, and they're just stroking along. A new surface, the most competitive field we've ever seen. It was always going to happen, but already into a 2:06 flat. But Peter Cox will be over the moon about finally getting a racing lap at Mount Panorama.
And it's still just dark enough to see the glowing red brake discs, particularly on the front of the Lamborghini, excuse me, as he comes round into Hell Corner.
So the battle for the lead continues, John, but there's racing up and down the field as well. These are the little Fiat 500 Abarths running further down the field. But these are surprisingly quick, lapping as quickly as the production cars that won this race in 2007 were going, en route to outright victory. So these aren't slow cars.
Oh, hello, we've got a problem.
Oh, you're kidding.
The Lambo.
It's Peter
Cox, and he's hit something on the mountain.
And we're getting word it could be a kangaroo as well.
Well, there was a word from race control at the start of the race of kangaroos at turn number 9, right at the start of the race, and Peter Cox begins to do some of his... Oh, now he's going to get into some bother for that. I understand why he's done it, but he could have pulled off the track to do it. He's pulled the whole of the front of the car. The cover at the front of the car is being pulled off and left on the circuit, and that may well cause our first full court caution.
This team has the worst luck at Mount Panorama. Last year, Peter did not get a drive because the car was taken out within the first hour. The year before, they were on the lead lap in 4th place and in a very strong position, and were caught out with a crash at turn 1. And again, drama strikes, and if indeed it is a kangaroo, there is a massive irony in that, because David Russell was taken out of the Bathurst 1000 when he hit a skippy in the Jack Daniels Nissan in October. As Nico Bastian continues to set an epic pace at the front of the field, 2:04.91 for a new lap record as the whole field runs through. So Ferrari in 2nd place. There's the McLaren with Clark Quinn behind the wheel, and close behind him, or just pulling away, in fact, Rick Kelly in 4th place, then Richards, then Jaeger, then we go back to Jack LeBrock in the Mercedes. There's Van Thor in the Phoenix Audi, the first of the Class B cars running nicely. Ollie Gavin in 9th place overall, first in Class B.
He was up at 5:30 earlier in the week to go for his customary run, just the 5 miles. And look at the back gap behind Ollie Gavin. It should be Earl Bamber in 10th position that comes across the rise in the Porsche and is... And then it's Patterson, Mark Patterson for United Autosports in the Audi. Then an interesting tactic, the 33 Clearwater car. We haven't talked too much about that red Ferrari. 3rd 2 years ago, 2nd last year. How will that progression go? But they've decided to put their non-seeded drivers in at the start of the race to try and keep their hot shoes, if you like, in Matt Griffin and Bairdo a little bit fresher for when the day gets warmer later on. And so far that gamble is paying off. And can I just remind everybody,
it's down the inside,
contact, the Forest elbow into the Nissan. The Nissan pushed into the BMW, and that that is the first bit of robust driving that we've seen in this year's Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours, and I'm not sure there really that you could call that either way racing incident. The door was left open by Rick Kelly. He takes a slightly wider line, side to side contact between the GTR and the HTP Mercedes. Thomas Jäger's worked his way through quite quietly to that point from 11th on the grid and looking there for another position, now up to 4th. Now, question is, was there any damage to wheels, tyres, or indeed any of the steering equipment on those two cars?
It was quite hefty contact between the two of them, so there was a gap, and Thomas Jäger just took it, didn't he? Dive down the inside. Rick Kelly looks very relaxed, just cruising, hands on the bottom of the steering wheel. Doesn't look like he's overly stressed. He's professional enough to not worry about that. Now, here's the look. Down the inside. So Rick Kelly was trying to avoid the BMW that they were putting a lap on and turned in a little bit late. I don't think there's any fault of Thomas Jäger there. I think that was just Rick trying to avoid the lap car. Jäger trying to take the hole and get down the inside, and it turned out it worked. Hopefully they're both okay. So drama through the field here at Mount Panorama. This is the fight for the lead. Speaking of drama, Mercedes versus Ferrari. Craig Lowndes just puts the nose out but can't get through. This Ferrari sounding sweet in the crisp early morning mountain air. So this is an awesome fight between the Mercedes-Benz and the Ferrari for the lead of the motor race early on. And this looks like it could go on for some time. Jäger, meanwhile, absolutely flying and lighting up the time on it. I want to see what this lap does for the 84 HTP car, that brilliant white Mercedes that's been repaired once already this weekend after a hefty crash on Friday when they rattled it across the wall at McPhillamy Park. Bashed into Lowndes' 0.6. And then big gap back to Clark Quinn, who's under a real bit of pressure.
He's just lost it. He's just lost the position, went wide at the final corner. Looked like he missed his braking point, and there is the visual confirmation as they go into Hell's Corner on lap number 17. Now, it's just whizzing by, isn't it?
We're 45 minutes into the race, and Bastian has been the biggest charger of the day. So again, the lap Porsche down the inside, textbook stuff at Mount Panorama. Clark gave him racing room.
Bad news for the GWS BMW. No, not bad news. That looks like it may be more routine than I thought. They're having a look on the right rear. This is the car that was being lapped when we saw that incident between Rick Kelly and Thomas Jäger.
So Peter O'Donnell just jumping out, the car owner, the proprietor of GWS Personnel, a locally Central West New South Wales based recruiting system, a recruiting business. I want to give props to a great young driver, Richard Muscat. He's in that blue, white and red Porsche in behind, one of the best in the business. And that's Alex Davison in the number 12 Ice Break Ice Coffee entry. Rich Muscat, the GT3 Cup Challenge winner from last year. Going with the best in the business in this car, run by Team BRM, Redcorp Motorsport. And Rich will be driving with Erebus this year in Aussie GT and the Mercedes, but getting laps at Bathurst in a Porsche. He is doing an unbelievable job lapping at the same pace as some of the best in the business.
And I reckon that's a 4th in Class B at the moment. And these are similar Porsches. Pat Long, of course, will be jumping into that number 12 car. Pat Long, poster boy for American road racing, who learned his craft in Europe and then has taken it back and refined it in the United States. Very well thought of by Porsche and spearheading the Porsche Works run in the Tudor United Sports Car Championship with Core Autosport this year. This is the first big retirement, gentlemen. The 23 Reiter Engineering Lamborghini, the Largo racing car. Peter Cox's bad luck at the Mountain Crailsea continues.
As Rick Kelly brings the Nissan Nismo GTR into pit lane for their first scheduled stop, and that's where Shea Adam is waiting.
The Nissan is making its way slowly down the pit lane, coming into the pit box where a legion of men are waiting. They will do full service before investigating the damage. They have lots and lots of gaffer tape if they need it to fix this car. On initial appearance, the damage does not look too severe. There aren't any dive planes missing off the front of the car. The right-hand side has not too much damage, and the crew is actually signaling that they might just send it back out after they change the tires.
Well, you can't do anything whilst the fuel is going in, and that's why there's no work going on the car. When the fuel probe is in, no one else can touch the car. Rick Kelly with his GoPro on his helmet had some fantastic shots from that. Little bit of damage on the right front, round the fender at the front of the front right wheel. No tyres, just fuel. That is the first of the stops, and Paul Truswell nods sagely that should be what is happening if you've put the slightly harder tyres on at least.
I would have thought so, and maybe even if you haven't got the harder tyres on, because it was a cool morning. We were expecting high temperatures later on, but it certainly wasn't baking hot first thing this morning, and so they will possibly have had the softer tyres on and be able to double stint those. They'll put the harder tyres on as the temperatures get warmer, and of course they then become softer because the temperatures are warmer. But the Nissan then, what they will now be doing in the garage is to calculate how much fuel of the 100 litres that they're allowed, how much fuel actually went in. The second place car is also now in pit lane. That's Craig Lowndes in the number 88 Ferrari.
And he's caught up behind one of the Class B Porsches as well. Fortunately, the Superbarn car is out of the way. In fact, and problems for the number 4 Porsche. It looks like a right rear suspension failure. No, it's a puncture. It's a puncture sitting down at the right-hand side. There's Craig Lowndes already getting his belts off. He's right at the far end of the pit lane, so he's slackened everything off. So this is going to be a driver change for the 88 car. Now, you can do that when you are fueling, but that's the only thing you can do.
is putting his seat insert into the car. He will be getting in for this first stint of his early in the morning. They're getting him in to get him used to the car and to throw themselves out of the sink of traffic, hoping to get a little bit of advantage. With the leader still running out there, he will have to pit, and this means that they will get back out while he is in the pit box. So they're just doing up John Bowe's belts. They're taking the fuel back off. No tires again. It seems as if these Michelins are very happy to double stint this morning.
Yeah, the issue is now, though, he's already had 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds where the fuel hose was out. He's losing time in the pit lane. They might as well have put tyres on this car. You can see the mechanic, if you're watching the pictures, urging him out of the pit lane. John Bowe is a wily old character, though, and he was making sure his belts were tightened. You do not go up the mountain. But that was not the slickest of stops from the second place car, and they may well lose position here.
Well, that took them 1 minute and 18 seconds. Rick Kelly's stop took 1 minute and 7. They didn't change drivers, but it looked like JB was in before the fuel was done, so there might have been a little bit of a delay at the end, or just a little bit tardy leaving away. Perhaps just communication. Okay, JB, go, 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 go. They might just not have got that right. So he was in there getting good to go. The Grove Group team, Stephen Grove, heading up that operation, doing a fantastic job with some great drivers with them, Earl Bamber and Ben Barker, as Bernd Schneider watches on from Erebus Motorsport.
Bernd Schneider watches on in a polo shirt and a sweater. He's not even set to go racing yet. Now look, just behind the Nissan here, one of the GTC Focus and the BMWs seem to have car magnets in them in this early part of the race, and it is the GWS car again that gets a little bit of a ding. There is the errant GTC Focus in the lane, and it wasn't my fault, he moved over on me. That was the international sign of don't blame me from the driver.
Ryan McLeod there just helping the driver change. So Ryan has engineered this program together. There's the McLaren.
Third place it came out of. Clark Quinn, I think, has done a great job. It shows not like he's going to get out. And that's very interesting to see. GT3 cars, of course, you can have the Formula 1 style steering wheels. You saw that was the little bow tie shaped steering wheel, just like a Formula car. In Le Mans style GT racing, you must have a complete wheel that traces something like an oval or a circle. You look at something like the Corvettes in the US series, it's got just a little bar across the top to fulfill that requirement. But that is very much, isn't it, a single-seater steering wheel that Clark Quinn's got his mitts wrapped around at the moment.
So most of the leaders now starting to work their way into pit lane for the first scheduled stops. Here's the number 1 car, race leader. Fantastic opening stint for these guys. This is a very well-drilled operation when it comes to endurance racing.
The Erebus car that started from the pole has now come in from the lead. He is staying in the car. They have tires ready if they need to do a change, but they don't look as if they're planning on it. They are also worried about the 63, which right now is making its way slowly down the pit lane. This car should get back out on track as soon as the refueling is done. They should not lose time where the 88 did in a driver change. But if you look at the car right behind it, the green Erebus, that's the one that's going to need more attention. They have lots and lots of gaffer tape prepared to try and repair that front splitter that suffered damage early on in the race from hitting a kangaroo. Fuel is done. Erebus had a minor issue. They're out and away. 63 is still in the box. There is steam coming out of the brakes and lots of dust, but it doesn't look as if the front is too badly damaged. It is the front bumper, and that will flap around. That will hurt the aerodynamics, but the guys will have to repair that with tape if they repair it at all.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama. It's the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour, and things are starting to shape up, even though we're just over an hour into a 12-hour endurance race. Ollie Gavin currently leads in the Audi, but is yet to stop. This will be a battle for second on the road eventually. Once all these stops shake out, it's Clark Quinn in the McLaren versus Thomas Jaeger in the H2P Mercedes, and this is shaping up to be a cracking race.
Where is the 88? Craig Lowndes was into the pits in second place. John Bowe took it over, and he's down in 7th position. 7th position, and that is what the difference of a 10 seconds or so can make. Here's the battles going on up the mountain.
Yeah.
And that is a change of position. The Audi has gone through, and John Bowe loses another position.
Yeah, it was a slow outlap from John Bowe as well, which is probably hardly surprising. He was still dialing himself in. The car, of course, they didn't change the tyres, so John was taking over a hot racing car with warm tyres on it, but he still wants to feel his way into it just a little bit. So, yes, it was 10 seconds on the pit stop, John, but also a slow outlap.
It's 8:30 in the evening in London at the moment, or further afield, and I know there's an awful lot of you in America watching this, loving the time zone differences. Well, welcome along to what apparently is going to be another one of these endurance races that is flat out from start to finish. And here's an opportunity for Richards. He gets right into the draft. It's a big hole in the air made by the GTR, waving left and right as the other Audi is not in that fight. It's going a lap down towards the right-hander at the end of Conrod Straight. Now Richards is lined up there. He's got the main beam on. That's worth 2 or 3 kilometres an hour, surely, as he comes down. Oh, it's great driving by Rick Kelly, though. He knew there that he was there. Now, that answers my question, Crazy. Rick Kelly does not want to give that position up. He wants to be the master of his own destiny.
Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with the straight line poke of the GTR either. I watched a lot of onboard laps last night, John, just getting an idea of how these cars are behaving. That's not behaving very well. That's one of the motorsport services Seats out of New Zealand. Number 66, I think, is parked well and truly in pit lane, stuttered behind the wheel.
It's got fire. There's a little bit of fire in the front end of that. Grant Denyer is down there.
Yeah, the situation was the 66 car came in. Michael Driver hopped in the car. The pit stop was taking a little bit long, and as you can see, the right front calipers caught fire. The crew was on it straight away. They've doused it in retardant, but unfortunately, now they're going to have to get to work on this car and clean things up before they can send it back out onto the track.
Let's look back to the start then. 6:15 this morning, and the green flag waved. Eventually, it was a long run to the start line. The Erebus Mercedes on pole position got the drop on the rest of the field and headed up the mountain straight for the first time in exactly the position that they wanted. Nico Bastian is still in the car and still leads. The big story of the first hour, though, Peter Cox's rude look at the mountain continues. Contact with Global Wildlife has put the 23 Lamborghini in the box and out of the race.
Massive disappointment for a car that I thought could contend this weekend. This was a bit dramatic. Down the inside went Thomas Jaeger on Rick Kelly, and there was a bit of contact, but all okay for both cars, and then more contact just a few laps later. Down at the chase, one of the Mark Focuses getting into Pete O'Donnell in the GWS BMW. This was exciting, wasn't it? Rick Kelly and Stephen Richards, two old mates and rivals from the V8 scene, having a real good battle for the bottom half of the top 5, and that fight continues with Rick Kelly 4th, Stephen Richards 5th, and this has been an issue too with the Seat, the number 66 car with now live pictures back to the mountain. The Lotus off the road at the chase. It is well bogged.
That is the motion sport team that did so well last year. Gordon Shedden, Pete Story and Ben Gower. And did he jump or was he pushed? Oh, he lost it. Well, that's a very, very interesting place to lose it. And when I say interesting, I mean really, really scary, because he lost that as soon as he came through the right-hander onto the chase. That was the moment, I think, Krills, he hit the brakes. Let's get another look at it now. Yeah, he had his right rear wheel just off the side of the circuit, I think. He just pinched the car a little bit coming through the right-hander. And the moment he got on the brakes, that car started swapping around. Now look at the right front of that car. That did not look the way that car came out of Hethel, if I'm honest.
Very lucky not to roll down there at the chase as well, John. There's Alex Davison debriefing after his first stint. He's with CJ, David Calvert-Jones, the Icebreak Competition Motorsports and McElroy Racing pit. Hopefully we'll hear from Alex in just a sec. Here's the Pirelli outright leaderboard. Mercedes 1 and 2, Bastian leading Jaeger, the Germans in front, Clark Quinn third, Rick Kelly fourth, Steve Richards in P5 in the Lambo going well, and Lawrence Banthor completing the top 6. Ollie Gavin leads GWS Class B.
Alex Davison, you've just gotten out of the 12 Porsche. What was it like out there? Was the traffic any better than it has been for the past couple of days?
Traffic wasn't too bad. The drama isn't the slower cars, it's actually the slower drivers in the Class A cars, because their cars are much quicker. They drive away down the straight and then you're sort of held up behind them around the corner, so you can get stuck with one of those guys for a whole stint and there's nothing you can do. But once the race sort of settled into a groove, everyone found their place and the traffic wasn't too bad. So better than I expected. Our car feels really nice. Maybe a tad down on power compared to a couple of our competitors in Class B, but it's handling really good. And Pat's in now for his first stint at Bathurst, so he'll be excited. He's been loving the track and loving the event, so we'll keep plugging away and see where we end up at the end of the day.
You're no strangers to Porsche, but you're driving with a Porsche factory driver. What does that do for your confidence coming into this race?
Look, Pat and I have been buddies for nearly 15 years, and we raced German Carrera Cup and Porsche Super Cup together 10 years ago, and you know, when I was driving for Porsche over in Europe, we used to spend some time together too. So you know, he's just my buddy Pat, but it's great having someone of his calibre along in our crew. I think we've got a really good driver lineup with Pat and I, and CJ, for a gentleman driver, for lack of a better description, he's really solid and not that far off Pat and I. So, you know, I think we've got a good lineup. The Class B regulations are a little bit funny, so we're sort of going to a gunfight with a knife at the moment, but we're having a good time, and I reckon we'll end up, if we don't have any dramas, we'll end up somewhere near the top in Class B.
HTP Merc, that's the front right of that car, and that, no, I'm worried about that. That looks like the tyre is rubbing on the guards on the front wing of that car. The McLaren coming up to have a little bit of look to see if he's allowed to go by. They'll be on the radio saying, can I pass him, because we're going to go green.
Now, you would have expected that after the contact with the Nissan when he dived down the inside, remember, Thomas Jaeger.
Yes.
But that was 15 laps ago. Like, it's a long time for that to start to develop. It's a kind of problem you imagine immediately. And he's going so slowly now that Nico Bastian's going to have a massive advantage. They've only just waved Clark Quinn through.
He's gone through.
This is a massive drama. It's a huge advantage for the #1 car. They should have kept the safety car out for one more lap when they'd seen that.
I'm guessing that the McLaren and Clark Quinn was on the radio saying, what do I do, what do I do? Can I go by, can I go by? Well, and they will have got the shout from, he will not have made that decision on his own. Green flag is out now, so you can actually go by, and the left-hand indicator on the HTP car is on and into the pit lane. This is big news. The big mover from 11th all the way up to the front of the field at one stage. The 84 car, that looks like it's a flat. It is a flat. That has got no air in the tyre. I thought it was sitting down on the right front, and that is a flat right under safety car situation. That is such bad luck.
Yeah, I just wonder if because of Thomas Jaeger will have been trying to keep the temperatures in the tyre, it may have been weaving from side to side, and that may have just put an extra strain onto the tyre. I think it is just a tyre, so they'll be able to get that changed and get on with the race. Meanwhile, they're also going to take the opportunity to change the driver.
Oh, there's been contact. There's been contact. You can see the shavings, the swarf from the metal on the wheel. and I've got a nasty feeling that that wheel is catching on the inside to the brake caliper, and that means that that wheel is not seated properly, and that is probably what has overheated the tyre and put the tyre down. Either that or it's broken the seal on the inside, the side that we can't see.
All right, so they're going through the motion of a standard pit stop, but it's pretty animated down there at HTP. So driver change going in, fuel going in. Now they get the car in the air. Broken front, oh, that's broken front suspension.
Yeah, either
you see
that,
it flopping around?
Yeah, either that or the whole of the hub and the retaining nut is not holding that on.
And they're going into the garage with this car, so...
Contact under the safety car?
Only 6 people are over the red line in pit lane to work on the car, so it's much better to get it in the garage where everyone can attack it. That's got broken front suspension.
Yeah, and that must be as a result of the contact with the Nissan GTR earlier on. It's worked its way loose, it's cracked, it's done something, and eventually it's played out and cost them some time in the pit lane.
Gee, it's busy in the midfield, isn't it? John, this is an amazing battle. A couple of Class B Porsches, Motorsport Services and the IMAC Quitmec team really battling it out in the midfield. Meanwhile, pit lane, Grant Boyden has found a familiar face to V8 Supercar fans.
Well, the 17 Hogsbreath car is out there circulating and doing very, very well in Class C. Carl Reiner started the race and he's just hopped out of the beast. Carl, a very interesting session for you. Talk us through what it's like out there, because those C-Class cars are a bit interesting in the parity department.
Yeah, it's a bit skatey out there. The track's starting to come good. I feel like the track in the first few days has been a little bit greasy, but nice cool conditions this morning. It's really come alive, but it's a different event to what I'm used to. The cars, I only literally jumped in it for the first time 3 minutes before the first practice session. Met Mark Griffith, the owner, about an hour before that. So just coming to grips with it. We're plugging along quite nicely. It's not the fastest car in the world, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
GTR versus Lamborghini on the mountain. How cool is it to say that, by the way? And Rick Kelly defending at the moment a podium position. Well, 10 hours and 6 minutes away from a podium position, but nevertheless he has shown early on here that he is reluctant to give up even a centimetre of ground on the Mount Panorama circuit.
This is a really good drive from Stephen Richards too. Loves these cars, loves the grip and the confidence that they inspire, having driven the V8s on a knife edge for October. Yeah, down the inside, Richo just shows the nose to Kelly. Van Thor there showing that the Phoenix Audi is very much in this race. So 3 brands, 3 marks fighting it out for 3rd, 4th and 5th. And Stephen Richards came very close to having a proper go up the inside at Falcon Tyres elbow, the top of Conrod Straight. Nothing wrong with the straight line performance of this Nismo GTR. Good horsepower, good straight line speed. And the thing seems to be very stable across the top of Mount Panorama Tour. Compared an onboard lap of that between that and the Audi last night, and the GTR just seems so composed and so well set up and planted across McPhillamy Park and onto Skyline. It's a good fight, this.
And it's interesting, isn't it, just how much you slow yourself down when you start to have to defend, because look at that Audi coming in 5th position. Lawrence Van Toor, he's got the sniff of a podium position as well, hasn't he? And now we have to work the traffic. This is where it looks like the video game from Rick Kelly's onboard on-helmet GoPro camera, past one of the Albarth 500s and heading up Mountain Straight for the 46th time. And look at how the Audi has dropped back. It really doesn't have the ponies on the fast stuff. And the Nissan and the Lambo carving their way through the traffic. Big engines, great looking cars. They sound fantastic when they're at full chat over the top. And this is where the Audi, very well balanced, starts to come into its own. And Van Toor now has again got target acquired on 3rd and 4th place ahead of him.
And Marcus Winkelhock, recently now behind the wheel of the United Autosports number 25 Audi, has just broken the lap record on lap 45. Wow. 2:04.58. That's a massive lap time.
Qualifying speed. Hey,
3/10 quicker than they've gone so far in the race. So Winkelhock flying. The United car on the lead lap, it's 7th, and it's going very nicely indeed. So we'll keep an eye on the United Autosports team as this day progresses, but Winky's going well.
Well, there is the Donut King car still circulating. We heard a black flag called for that a moment or two ago, and through goes Kelly. The Lambo and the Audi in close attendance now, down the hill through the Fork and Elbow and down onto Conrod Street. Let's see which of these hypercars have got the pace. That Nissan punches out of the Elbow so well and immediately takes 2-3 cars lengths out of the Lamborghini. The Audi does not have the straight line. Quite clearly does not have the straight line pace to keep up with these, but look how late Vantour is on the brakes as they go down through the chase.
On dramas at the elbow. It's one of the Mark Ford Focuses has gone round in a very dangerous spot. The Clearwater Ferrari gets through. Everyone will have seen the double wave yellow flags, which indicate a stranded car. But that is well and truly parked. If they cannot get that going, it will be a safety car. And that might well change the game for a lot of these strategies playing out.
And that is just going to break up what we were coming back to, which is the great battle for second position. McLaren and Rick Kelly catching him in the GTR. That's Clark Quinn in second place, third for the Nissan, fourth for the Lamborghini, fifth for the Audi, and those cars all battling for position. And in fact, that's John Bowe behind in sixth position as well. That's all going to close up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other gap that one will then close up is the 10-second or 12-second gap that Nico Bastian has been slowly eking out over those 5 cars behind him. So it will all just close up together again. That is, I mean, they haven't actually thrown the safety car yet,
No,
so we're still in a racing situation.
There is an opportunity to get that car dragged out the way, and there's an access point on driver's right at the exit of the Elbow, and it may be that our hard-working volunteer marshals, of which we have the sharp end of 200 here, there is the yellow flag. It's a little bit further. They'd like to put the yellow flags out quite a way back from the incident, and when you see how tight it is here, you'll understand why. These guys are not slowing down that much, and in fact the yellow flags are withdrawn there, and we're told that the car, the Ford Focus, has started moving. That's not the appropriate line or way to get through, but he's pulled that car out of the way. That's actually a bit of heads-up driving. Used the gradient to his advantage and popped it down backwards. Just beyond there, Quilty, there is a place that he'll be able to get that car out of harm's way.
Yeah, I just hoping...
Sorry, I had to laugh. No, you don't expect to see a car going race direction, but facing the wrong way.
Yeah, he could roll the whole way to the pits in reverse, but there might be some issues with that. So some dramas for Keith. Fortunately, it seems like that car's okay. This fight continues with Rick Kelly and Stephen Richards.
Stephen Richards on the 67 Porsche tries to go around the outside, and Vantour in the red, white and yellow of the Audi team goes down the inside and takes the opportunist manoeuvre. That is great heads-up driving by Vantour, and goes up into 4th position as he crossed the line. John Bowe is right in there as well. John Bowe is right there, and that slapped me every time I do that. And the Iveco-sponsored Ferrari has closed up on this battle after losing that time in the pitch. Now, here's the Focus spinning. Ooh. Wow, he's lucky. Wow, he is lucky at that point. I don't think he hit the wall.
No, Marcus Winkelhock just behind was their contact. Now this is heads-up driving from the Audi. Watch the Audi with the bright yellow headlights. So around the outside goes Richards. Maybe a little bit of contact, nothing too bad. Watch the heads-up from the Audi, and just sliced past on the inside and got himself a position. And now it's Vanthor's turn to go out after Rick Kelly.
Oh, well, and there's another problem for the Clearwater Ferrari. We're just going to have a report from the pits. That's right up at the top of the hill. And there's fluid on the circuit there. Fluid on the circuit from the Clearwater car. And in that dust, there's another car got into him, and he slid straight into it. There's carnage at the top of the mountain here. I think that was the Nissan going off as well. But there's clearly some fluid down there on the racing line, and a huge dust cloud at the top of the mountain. There are 2 cars in there. One of them is the 33, full course caution number 3.
Massive impact.
Liqui-Moly 2014 Bathurst 12 hours. And the Clearwater car, having spun on its own fluid or someone else's, has been picked up by another car. It's Hamaguchi at the wheel of that car. It's scored in 12th position at the moment, and their tactics were paying off beautifully. This is going to take some clearing. Hamaguchi gets out the car under his own steam, and I'm so pleased to see that.
That was a massive impact. Remember, top of the mountain, 5th gear in one of these cars, absolutely flat at 220 kilometres an hour, and a car stranded facing the wrong direction. So, and it's the Nissan.
I knew it was the Nissan. It's the Nissan, and it's ripped off the right rear. It was the Nissan that hit it. I thought that as soon as I saw it go through, it was the shape of the car. It's been in the gravel. It's carried on for a few hundred metres, but the Nissan is out. The return to the mountain after 22 years, the odyssey for the Nismo Digital Age Performance Global Athlete car has come to a crashing end.
So let's have a look. So Hamaguchi, the Japanese driver, has already had his crash coming onto McPhillamy, and he's whacked that car against the wall. It's broken the radiator at the front, and it's dropped fluid. So he's spun on his own fluid, and everyone else taking evasive action. A couple of Porsches got through. The Nissan, however, unfortunately, did not. And Shea Adam is down in pit lane, standing by with a very disappointed Alex Buncombe.
Alex, you and the guys had the car up P1 for some of the sessions, and now, sadly, it's over. The good news is at least the bars are still open.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a good way to end the day. Things were looking really good. Rick did a fantastic first couple of stints there, and Gio-san was just settling into his rhythm, and yeah, we got caught out big time. It just goes to show how tough this place is, and haven't really seen the full story yet, but on TV it looks like the number 33, the Clearwater car, had some contact somewhere with the front of the car, and he was leaving some fluid on the ground through, I think, 16 and 17, the double fast left-hander, and yeah, the car spun, and we came round, and I can't see in the whole shot yet, but it just shows our car out of control, and we go sideways into the front of it, and yeah, it seems fairly big damage to the right rear of our car. So yeah, real shame for the team and everyone involved. You know, it's been a massive effort to get the car and the team here, and yeah, it's a real shame that we've had to end it this way. We were looking really good for a strong result here.
So while the safety car is out, let's take a look back at where this race has gone. It was a thrilling start in the early pre-dawn here at Mount Panorama, in a battle between Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren at the pointy end of the field early on in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour, but it was Mercedes who got into turn 1 first. Big field through, things didn't last too long for the JBS Lamborghini. Peter Cox's Bathurst Odyssey lasted just 5 laps, and he hit some local wildlife. Unfortunately, that's taken the 23 car right out of this motor race. The Nissan and the HTP Mercedes had a bit of close company at the Falcon Elbow, getting through some lap traffic, and that would later result in damage for the HTP car and some serious issues for the right front corner of the white Mercedes that's dropped them back down the order. Meanwhile, some of the lower class cars, the BMW and the Mark Focus, just getting into each other at the chase, and this was wild stuff. 3 different brands of top flight GT3 machinery dicing at 280 k's an hour down Conrod Straight, and the Nissan was making some moves early. So too Stephen Richards in that M Motorsport Lamborghini Gallardo. Dramas for the Seat from Motorsport Services. Fire in the right front corner. They went to pit lane and would spend some time there. And the old off at the chase. Not the first time we've seen that happen, and I'm sure it won't be the last. A big spin and a backwards lose into the gravel trap for the Motion Sport Lotus Elise. Meanwhile, Lamborghini versus Nissan. At the elbow, down the inside went Richards, couldn't quite get it done, but this was a great fight for the minor positions. And then the Mark Focus, he didn't bring out a safety car, was able to get going, no contact with anyone. And meanwhile, this battle just continued, and a bit of a hit there from the number 67 Porsche, just made contact and was unable to get through. The Grove Porsche went to pit lane with a puncture on the right rear. It's been an issue for the Porsches. And there were more dramas at the chase, with Hamaguchi and the Clearwater Racing Ferrari having a spin all on his own, and just avoiding being hit by the Mark Focus. Unfortunately, his race wouldn't end much longer. A big crash at McPhillamy saw him spin, and this is why we're currently under safety car at the mountain. A big lose. Some Porsches took evasive action. Unfortunately, the Nissan had absolutely nowhere to go, and this was a massive impact when the GTR got to him. Crunch. big damage. Both cars well and truly out of the race, and 2 contenders gone from the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. And that's the sorry sight of the Nismo Nissan GTR parked on the side of the road. So the Pirelli outright leaderboard shows Bernd Schneider leading the way from Renault Rast in the Phoenix Racing Audi second, and Richard Means in the Class B GWS Audi running in third place ahead of John Bow and Shane van Gisbergen fourth and fifth. Eric Lutz climbing up the order for United Autosport, the number 25 car into P6 and going nicely in front of Rossley, Will Davison, Devarshan, Padiachi and Mark Eddy rounding out the top 10. The Michelin Class leaderboard has Bernd Schneider on top, Daniel Gaunt's leading the way in Class C, Michael Lyons in Class D, Paul Gover, the motoring journo in the Fiat, leads the way in that class battle, with Gary Jacobson on top. The Battle of the Mark focuses in Recaro Class I. So great fights up and down the field in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. This race really starting to fire up. We're going to take a break and come back with a restart on the other side of this. It's just past quarter time. We're 3 hours into the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. No breaks here though. Bernd Schneider continues to lead the race for Erebus Motorsport.
The 2 Fiat Abarths we're watching at the moment. This is a really interesting programme, isn't it, Krilsey? Last year's we've still got the slippery surface and debris flag out at the top of the mountain at the place of that last incident that brought out the safety car. A bit of oil dry still getting thrown up there. We saw Peugeot come with the RCZs last year, the diesels. You've not seen the RCZs in Australia, and effectively Peugeot Australia used this race to launch the RCZ sports cars. Fiat Chrysler in Australia have done a similar job here with Abarth, which hasn't been around these parts for quite some time, and those guys, real racing drivers, teamed up with some journos as well. Meantime, the battle hots up in the Audi class, it would appear.
It does. It was Paul Gover versus Toby Hagen in the Fiat, 2 of Australia's leading motoring journalists trying each to out each other on a scoop, which isn't surprising. So they fight over column inches. They're fighting over track position at the moment. Come back to the battle of the baby cars here at the Liqui-Moly 12 Hour, because this is very interesting. So the 14 car with Mines behind the wheel, P5. Eric Lux in the 25 United Autosport car is next in P6. Now the car that's behind them is the Hallmark Property Group Audi, which is the number 9 car with Mark Eddy, a double Australian GT champion, behind the wheel.
He wants his lap back.
He does want his lap
Top
back.
8, by the way, still on the lead lap, and the third of those Audis is the second car off the lead lap. And at the moment, Mark Eddy has the pace on the 2 cars ahead of him, and he desperately wants to get by and head towards somewhere nearer the front of the field, so that he's got half a chance of getting a wave by if something happens later on. But there's a battle for position ahead of him, and those are 2 Audis in a space that probably is only big enough for 1.5 R8s as they come through the S's. Great part of the racetrack, and Mark Eddy has got a grandstand seat for the battle ahead of him, which is for 5th and 6th position.
It's been a great drive by Mines since he's got in the car. A really good opening stint by Ollie Gavin, who I think will be elated just to finally get laps at Mount Panorama. Now let's have a look if there's any difference between these 2 V10 powered Audi R8 LMSs. They should be identical, but I think the 25
car on the right, the B-class car on the left.
There'll be some aero differences. So the B-class car actually has less downforce, so it'll be faster in a straight line. The Audis are somewhere near 275 k's an hour through the chase, and they're braking quite late, but they're not the fastest cars in a straight line. That's their major downfall. And I spoke to the HTP team earlier, and they thought, no, the Mercedes is better in a straight line compared to the Audi. The Audi might have a little bit more downforce.
No, don't go there, don't go there. He's come from a long way back, and Lux gets through. He's done a pretty good job. I'm guessing that the guys were on the radio to the 14 car, Richard Means, and said, listen, don't fight too hard, and you don't need to fight the second one at all, because he's a lap back on you, and that's smart team management there. You've got to manage the expectation of the drivers. And again, talking to the guys in the paddock early in the week, they were asking me about the drivers of the Fiats and some of the smaller cars, who are the pros, who are the amateurs, so that they could tick that off in their mental list and ask the guys on the radio who's driving what. Oh, here's an issue for the leader, exactly where you don't want to hit traffic, just heading up towards McPhillamy, and he's going to have to squeeze down the inside of the Porsche and make a decision and stick to it. He does do. Thank goodness, you almost have your heart in your mouth there. You're the leader of the race, and you are really putting your faith and the lead of the race in somebody else's hands. You just hope that that Porsche driver stays on his line and you can go through into the S's again. That classic shot looking back up the hillside. And this is the car that is seventh position car. Ricard Means took over that car in 3rd position. Has just been steadily dropping down. And SVG round the outside. He sees the opportunity, but can't get it done there. But what he's doing, he's putting doubt in the mind of the German ahead of him. He's putting pressure on that very cool, calm and collected German psyche that is behind the wheel of the Benz. You would think it wouldn't make any difference, but hey, look at the guys here. This is tactics.
So Barry Ryan, the team manager at Erebus Motorsport, Damo, with the long hair and the beard next to it, they're just talking, working out their strategy for the next round of stops, which won't be that far away, I wouldn't have thought, but maybe working out their strategy for what car 1 is going to do. Do they let Van Gisbergen go by? He's the wild card. He's the X factor in this race. If he sees an opportunity, he will take it and go through, even if there's half a Mercedes left. And dramas for Phoenix. Puncture, right rear puncture at Phoenix Racing.
4th place car, that was. In fact, it was 3rd a moment ago. The Ferrari's already gone past it now. He's just on the top end of the Conrod Straight coming out of the Falkland elbow. Oh, no, get off the dirt. Get off the dirt. That's not going to help you.
This is a big moment for the race because 2 laps ago they were within a second and a half of our 2 leaders. So Rene Rast behind the wheel of the Phoenix Racing Audi.
Terrible look.
And this is going to cost them big time. They're going to have to adapt their strategy to suit this out-of-sequence stop. When were they last in pit lane, Paul? How close is this going to work for their strategy?
Up to the cutting side by side, and Jim Van Gisbergen tries to put the pressure on the leader. He can't do it, but he's forcing the German into some defensive driving. That means he can't get on the power as early, going up through the cutting, and there's more traffic ahead. You get the feeling now, and again, credit Van Gisbergen, SVG doing a great job, that just for once, the German master is driving with more than one eye on the mirror. The Lamborghini now needs to steer drivers right and does. That's the 48 car. That's the 6th place car going a lap back. So now only 5 cars on the lead lap. Eric Lux in the 25 Audi, the United Autosports red, white and blue car, will be the next car to go a lap down. The pace of the leaders has picked up.
Yeah, and it will be 4 cars as well with that puncture for the number 3, won't it? Because that car, just to answer your question from a moment ago, Crailsy, due in anyway in about 4 laps for fuel, so they're not going to be completely messed up on the schedule. But
Full course caution. There's a yellow flag on the start line as the number 3 car has got into the pit lane. So for the moment, the safety car will bring
Lamborghini.
And it's the Lambo that's at the top of the hill again.
That's the Stephen Richards, David Wood car. Ross Lilly behind the wheel. 8th place car in the wall.
He'd just been passed by the leaders and gone offline at that part of the circuit. I wonder if he dirtied up his tyres and then could not manage to make, that is such a quick part of the circuit, could not manage to make the double left.
And another contender falls early in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour. Safety car out, timed perfectly for Phoenix Racing.
Stand by to release a Scotsman, not the Scotsman. Kirkcaldy is getting ready to get into the McLaren, and the leader's in the lane. Bert Schneider is in the pit lane and heading towards the pit stop, and it looks like the McLaren of Shane Van Gisbergen's gone round. He has.
So here's a look what happened at the top. Leaders go by. There you go. That's a massive hit,
and that's driver's
scary
side.
Fast. So he got out the way. We called it. We watched it happen as the 2 leaders went by Ross Lilly and the Lamborghini to put them a lap behind.
We've got 8.5 hours to go. Here's the Pirelli leaderboard with Van Gisbergen scored as the leader behind the safety car, the Darrell Lee A-Class. Look further down to 6th position for the GWS B-Class leader. That's Ricard Means in the number 14 Audi. And David Calvert-Jones now slipped into the top 10 in the number 12 Porsche as well. That's going to shake up because SVG, remember, in that McLaren owes us a pit stop.
Quiet achievers in there too. The Class B number 45 Porsche Devarshan Padiachi behind the wheel going really well. The Michelin class leaderboard, Shane Van Gisbergen remained out, as we know, thanks to Darrell Lee, leads the way. Richard Mines going nicely for GWS personnel. Richard's Class C, the Janetta, Daniel Gaunt, the Kiwi, continuing to be strong behind the wheel. We're back to green flag racing here at the Liqui-Moly 12-hour. That HTP moment turning out to be one of the comedy moments of the race. Twitter thoroughly enjoyed it. There might be a serious side we'll pick up on in a minute as we go back to racing.
There's the Ferrari. Peter Edwards behind the wheel. Second position on the road. Eric Lux, third on the road. The United Autosport Audi going very, very well. Up to third. Will Davison fourth. So watch for the green striped SLS AMG. Then Shane Van Gisbergen will be further down the queue because remember, he stopped during that safety car interruption, whereas Bernd Schneider got in right at the very start. So he's there, carving his way through the field. And he will be zigzagging his way through the slower traffic, outside, inside, it doesn't matter. And he's got Will Davison in his sights in the 63 Erebus Mercedes-Benz. The green and black car is in battle for position, and he's right up his tailpipes already. That's a fabulous restart by SVG in the McLaren, and already as they head up the cutting on lap number 86, he's pushing to get back up into fourth place. He'll be absolutely fuming that they got the tactics wrong in that safety car period. If I was Davison, I'd get out of the way and let Van Gisbergen go, which I think he's done. Yep. Oh, almost had a look at the metal grade, dived up the inside. That was scary stuff for the V8 supercar rivals, but I'd let Van Gisbergen go. There's no point keeping him bottled up. He's going to be quicker. Let him be the one to negotiate all the slower cars while you're trying to get back to the leaders. Well, yeah, at the moment, Will Davison is the snowplow, isn't he? He is clearing the way, and Van Gisbergen's on his tailpipe. These guys are rivals who know each other very, very well, and there will be a respect and an understanding between these two. SVG will know who's in the other car. They're used to knocking off the wing mirrors on the cars in V8 supercars. You can't really do that here. It's rather frowned upon, and also the car won't last the whole of the rest of the 8 hours and 10 minutes. But I think it's important to point out that these guys have raced together a lot, and therefore they will have the respect and know how they're going to react in certain situations. This is messy, isn't it? You said that Will Davison's the snowplow. Van Gisbergen's a bigger snowplow. He will be better at carving his way through the traffic, I think, or more aggressive at least, and that's what you need to carve your way through. But Will's done a very good job just clearing his way through that mess, and he's now got a little bit of breathing room. But Van Gisbergen harassing the back of the number 63 car. This is for position, by the way. So they are dicing for position. There is a timing issue on the number 63 SLS AMG, but it is for track position. Fourth and fifth at the moment for Will Davison and Shane Van Gisbergen. That's a good point if you're following along at home with the web timing. Don't worry that that's dropped down. Now let's look further up the field. That is second place, Paul Edwards at the wheel. Bernd Schneider still leading, and then here is that battle for fourth and fifth position. Eric Lux just nipping through there in the 25 car. That's been a great run for United Autosports. Right, here's what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 laps. Will Davison and Van Gisbergen will clear these slower class cars in front. Then they will get to the back and pass these two. Lux up the inside of Peter Edwards and another Audi as well. Be careful, Pete. Keep it on the black stuff. That's a change of position there. That is for second place. But these two drivers do not have the raw speed that Van Gisbergen and Davison have. So they will get to the back of them very, very quickly and should get themselves up further up the order. So there is the dicing battle for fourth and fifth. And they're very, very quick at this point in time, so they will catch. Now Peter Edwards around the outside. Van Gisbergen sweeps around Davison and gets the position. That was interesting, wasn't it? You don't normally see a pass into the braking area for the S's, but once again, opportunist tactics have to be undertaken here when you've got multi-class racing. You take what you can get when you can get it. And at the moment, Will Davison has got nothing for the McLaren. SVG has cleared off, like the afterburners. Meantime, this is an interesting look as well, because what we're seeing here is a car getting a lap back. That is the second place car of Eric Lux that is just getting a lap taken back from it. Chris Meese going past, two-time winner with the Works Audi team when they were here in 2011 and 12. So Christopher Meese working his way back in and setting a good pace in that car that he's sharing with Mark Sini and Michael Lochisano. We take a look back a little bit. This is Ben Barker in the Grove Racing Porsche. The number 11th position overall, by the way. Teaming with Earl Bamber and Stephen Grove, the owner-driver. It's Grovey races Carrera Cup for, well, full-time in his racing at least. Behind them, Devarshan Padiachi, who is a regular in Porsche Carrera Cup Australia. His dad, Indran, running the second of 2 cars from the Rent Corp squad. Now, Devarshan running 8th at the moment, and, believe it or not, leading Class B. Yeah, that's because Ricard Means has done another pit stop in the 14 car. We saw him up as high as 3rd position. Ollie Gavin had the car at the lead of the race, but that 14 Audi has dropped back, having had an extra pit stop.
Great performance from this team so far, being run by Team BRM that won more Australian Drivers' Championship or Formula 3 races than any other team in Aussie motorsport. Young Rich Muscat opened the race and was setting lap times equivalent to that of...
He's impressive, isn't he?
He's a super watch for him internationally. Keep an eye out for him overseas because I think he will go there at some stage. So that team going well. Let's look back. Class C, thanks to Ridges, where we're taking these pictures from right now, appropriately. The little Ginetta. Haven't seen too much of the Ginetta brand in Australia. 3 or 4 of them run regularly in Aussie GT racing, but this car's performed very, very well. Daniel Gaunt behind the wheel, the young Kiwi, who's a go-to driver in V8 Supercar co-driving, runs in the New Zealand Super Tourer Series. There's Mark Griffith, running in this car. He's the major sponsor and driver of that. He's been running with Jack Perkins in this car last year. Jack not available for this race because he's become a full-time V8 Supercar driver once again, but they've drafted in Carl Reiner and Daniel Gaunt in a very strong performance.
Yorkshire-built car, of course, the Ginetta, Lawrence Tomlinson and the guys up there at Garforth, just north of Leeds, on the A1 tube frame car, crate V6 Ford motor. You don't need to do a lot to it because it weighs about as much as a shopping trolley. Great street car, even better as a race car. The G55, which is the big brother of this car, up into GT3 and knocking on the door of being a GT Le Mans spec as well. Expect to see a GTD version of that racing in Tusk at the American Series later on this season. Now this is Class D, the venerable E92 BMW M3. And it's not really an endurance race, multi-class endurance race, if you haven't got a variety of BMWs in here. This car has been leading this class for quite some time.
Michael Lyons behind the wheel, I think, in the number 97 car. So
it's Mortimer Motorsports.
Yep, 2 father and son combinations running in this, which makes that be interesting. We're just seeing Eric Lux in pit lane with the United Autosport Audi. So that's one of the leading cars coming into pit lane. So the Mortimer Motorsports car, Warwick and Andre Mortimer, Michael Lyons and Frank Lyons, the 2 father and son combinations. So team dynamic would be interesting in there, wouldn't it? The team briefings would be slightly interesting.
Yes, Dad. Your dad. The Bath 500s leading their class, of course, and there is the best of the 3 of them. Really interesting project, this, by Fiat Chrysler. And mentioned this yesterday, but I'll say it again for the new audience. Well done to Fiat Chrysler. They sent out a note to all the marshals around here with a care package, including a floppy hat and some drinks and some sun lotion as well. Said we know the speed differential to our cars might be causing you 1 or 2 issues and a bit of flag waving, so accept this care package on our behalf. And I thought that was a great touch by Fiat Chrysler Australia. And this is a really interesting, very interesting project that we're seeing. This is the Mark Focus GTC. Looks like a Ford Focus, is a Ford Focus from the outside, but underneath, a fire-breathing 5-litre V8 driving the rear wheels.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a road-going Ford Focus got together with a GT3 car, and this was the resulting offspring. It's a cool thing. This is the number 70 car at Leeds, the Invitational class. Gary Jacobson behind the wheel. Gary's a tremendous little steerer. He's an ex-Formula Ford racer, and he's done a bit of other stuff, but not a huge amount, but very experienced in Formula Ford.
4.5 hours into this race, and the battle for the lead is on full gas Mark 9.
No need for either of them to save their tyres at this stage either, John, because they both double stinted this set of tyres, so they can absolutely run them to their limits. About 3-4 laps to go for Ben Schneider before he's going to be coming into the pits to hand the car over to Mauro Engel. A couple of laps on top of that for the McLaren, so the McLaren should get 2 or 3 laps at the top of the lists after Ben Schneider makes his pit stop.
It's not the first time that Bernd Schneider, of course, has been up against the Quins Crailsy.
Homebush 2012 final round of Aussie GT. He's one-off driver there of his motorsport and just single-handedly dismantled this Aussie GT field. It wasn't this close between an Erebus Merc and a VIP Pet Food / Darrell Lee sponsored entry that time. In fact, the Highlands Motorsport Park livery on the side of that McLaren, because that's the track that Tony Quinn built in New Zealand in Cromwell.
Here we go.
Cacoldi watching in pit lane as his teammate thrashes the McLaren in a battle for the race lead.
And clearly he is going to get in at the next stop. Will he get in with the car in second? Will he get in with the car in first? Schneider wants to hold on to that position as the guys down at Erebus are watching on this traffic again. And Bernd Schneider, gets a bit of a wiggle on there on the slippery surface. The flags are out. Do you know what? I think he looked there and wondered if that was a yellow flag or a yellow and red flag. Realised he could go through and then just readjusted and went through. The Seat getting in the way, and here's Van Gisbergen. You know he doesn't mind the outside move. We've seen him do it before. Down towards the Falcon elbow. Two completely different lines. You can dive down the inside there. It doesn't really cruelly hurt your exit. Now the Mercedes-Benz seems to have a little bit more of the poke down the first part of the Conrad Straight, but for once the toe hasn't been broken. Can Van Gisbergen get somewhere close as they go through the right-hander? 285 Ks, no hint of a lift from the right-hand pedal. Van Gisbergen lining up the leader, but he's not close enough to do it here.
Unreal fight, and this is just awesome stuff from Van Gisbergen. Remember, he was 30 seconds behind and buried down in the queue after the last pit stop. He's hauled them back with raw pace from this McLaren, and now he's caught up behind the race leader. So this is well and truly on. The Merc better down the bottom of the mountain, but so good across the top is Shane Van Gisbergen. It's great stuff, and remember tyre brands as well. Michelin on the leader, Pirelli second, so nothing wrong in the battle of the tyres either. Bit of stress down at Erebus. Betty watching on nervously as her German charge, Bernd Schneider, leads the way, and there's the Quinn family watching on. Tony with the balaclava on the top of his head, so it looks like Tony will be next into, but Cacoldi next, but Tony Quinn not too far away from jumping into the number 37 McLaren either.
Rene Rast is still third in the number 3 Audi. Davidson in the 63 Mercedes-Benz in fourth. New fifth place man as Christopher Mies in the Audi is back up into fifth position ahead of the Ferrari with Edwards at the wheel. The 88 car dropping down to sixth position, but we will concentrate on the battle at the head of the field. We don't have to look too far for the big scraps on the mountain because it is the lead of the race. 7 hours and 26 minutes still to go, and it's traffic all the way. Who gets the best of it? One of the Class B Porsches. In fact, that was one of the leading Porsches. And it's David Calvert-Jones back out on the circuit after that problem with the tyre earlier on. Now the GTC Ford. He gets the block. He gets the block from the Ford, and then the Benz gets it back side by side through the dimmer. That doesn't work. Physics doesn't allow that to happen.
That's never been done. That's astonishing from Van Gisbergen. How he kept it out of the fence, I don't know, but he got boxed in by the Mark Focus and holds on to second place, but was inches away from fencing that car. That was hairy, and there's just nothing you can tell these drivers. 4.5 hours into a 12-hour race, and they're fighting for the lead like it's a 2-lap sprint race.
Expecting Bernd Schneider in at the end of the next lap, lap 108. They're working 107 at the moment as they're down through the chase again and down towards Riders, the hotel that was built here a few years ago and on which we are looking from our camera at the moment.
Here he goes.
Oh, the guys down at the Chicane Bar and Restaurant getting a fantastic look at the battle for the lead down into Maguire's for the 107th time, and still he can't get it done. Bernd Schneider doing enough, just enough, but still leads the motor race as they head up the mountain one more time.
Watch him at turn 1, try and fire one down the inside at Hell Corner, not quite. Work the toe, get a good exit of the corner, and use that Mercedes to pull the McLaren up the hill. That's what Van Gisbergen needs if he wants to try and fire one down the inside and turn to it. Griffin's Bend at the top of Mountain Straight.
He's got half a chance.
Fifth gear now as they rise over the crest, just touch the limiter before they turn in.
He's
around the outside.
He's let him go. He let him go. There was a lift there from Bernd Schneider. He let the McLaren go because he's coming in at the end of the lap. No doubt in my mind at all. He went defensive there, but then he lifted and let the McLaren go. Into the pits comes the 6th position Ferrari. Edwards on board that one, so we know now that the tactics has been put. Somebody was on the phone to Bernd saying, mate, what are you doing? There's no need.
That was just unbelievable, and this is probably why Bernd Schneider let him go. So lap traffic, the Mark Focus in front, Schneider goes one way, Van Gisbergen goes
he was
whatever.
He was through at that point. He'd actually got his nose ahead.
But then he got pegged in by the Focus as well. He was just driving down the middle of the road, and that actually worked for Bernd Schneider because he was on the racing line. And that's the reaction from Betty, watching it side by side, almost an expletive, but with holds. Oh, wow.
And let's see how aggressive Schneider wants to be in traffic now that he's got a course-clearing car in the shape of that McLaren Orange MP12 4C GT3, Natalie named, getting the road cleared for him, like I said before, working as the snowplow. In comes third-place car. René Rast in the Audi is in the pit lane. That's the number 3 car.
And what we didn't talk about was that Mika Salo is now behind the wheel of the number 88 Maranello Ferrari. Peter Edwards out, Salo in. So they're in...
Oh, the leaders hit Van Gisbergen. Van Gisbergen goes for a gap that wasn't there. Mika Salo had nowhere to go, and that is the other side of Shane Van Gisbergen. Yes, he's great, but he didn't need to do that. He's coming to a pit stop. There's a wry shake of the head down in the pit lane. That was something that could have cost him the race.
Oh,
could have cost him the race. Never mind the lead.
Unbelievable stuff. That was the closest you can get to destroying a McLaren.
Well, he had a crash there. He just didn't hit anything. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
That's just, I don't know what to say. That's remarkable. And Schneider going, well, what are you doing? You crazy New Zealander in front of me, just trying to dive up the inside. Now he goes down the finish race, the XF1 Ferrari driver, side by side, 285 through the kink.
And did you see
and
that,
it's clear?
Did you see that Bernd Schneider had braked and lifted off? He wasn't having any part of that going there.
Absolutely not. And the stress up and down pit lane must have been remarkable. Poor old Mika Salo, he's jumped into the Ferrari, he's a lap down, and he's on cold tyres cruising around, and all of a sudden there's this bright yellow McLaren stuffed up the inside of him at the fastest point at the top of the mountain there. All 4 wheels off the racetrack.
That's bonkers driving. I'm sorry, I love the fact that he's dragged back, but that is bad decision making, and that is a low percentage move. A low percentage move.
So they're about to pull SVG out after one of the stints of the Bathurst 12 hour,
yes.
Not just this year, but any of them, for all pluses and negatives and all sorts of stuff in between. But for excitement and for drama and for action, I don't think you get any better than that. That was amazing. So Andrew Cacoldi about to jump in to the McLaren because Shane Van Gisbergen is in, so too Erebus Motorsport. It's now a pit stop battle between these two great Aussie GT teams.
Pirelli versus Michelin, the black tyres going on where they'll be getting a new set for the new drivers, and just look at the strife as Van Gisbergen absolutely flings himself out. Look at the way the brakes were steaming there, and let's get down to the pit lane.
Yeah, the Mercedes #1 car comes into its pit garage right now. I can tell you how keen Maro Engel was to get in this car. 2 crew members were holding him behind the red line. It's Schneider that hops out of the car. The belt's going on. They're going for a full tank of fuel, as you would expect, but brand new sticker tyres will go on this car, so it'll have plenty of grip for the opening couple of laps and been setting themselves up for a long run here. On the previous pit stop for the sister car, a little bit slow for Greg Crick. He had radio communication issues. They had to reconnect his two-way, cost him a little bit of time. So far, this pit stop, nice and smooth. Driver in, locked away, fuel in, now the tyres are about to go on. As I said, brand new sticker tyres. The battle in pit lane is for the race lead. The McLaren still sitting down there at the moment, up in the air on its jacks. Front tyres going on the, or in fact, right-hand side tyres going on. Now they go across to the left-hand side. Left-hand's come off, and the new one's being put straight on. The McLaren is down on the ground. This car's still in the air, fires up the motor. Let's see what they can do. Who's going to lead out of the pits? It's going to be the Mercedes. Takes the lead in pit lane, effectively anyway, as he goes out. Maro Engel comes out to rejoin the circuit as the Erebus crowd give themselves a round of applause.
So all that hard work, all that charging back from Shane Van Gisbergen, and the Erebus guys have nicked the lead right back from the McLaren guys, under the McLaren guys' nose by Dylan. A better pit stop, and now it's going to be Andrew Cacoldi who has to do the chasing.
It shows how close it is when it's coming down to pit stops to decide the leader. Let's go to pit lane. Here's Boydo with a happy Kiwi.
Shane Van Gisbergen, what is it like to be the fastest man ever around Mount Panorama?
Oh, that's pretty cool, but you have to look at that car. That McLaren is unbelievable, and consistent laps, and the heat is really suiting the Pirelli tyres, and I think we did 2.5, maybe 3 stints on them, and still doing 4s at the end. It's amazing.
A stunning session for you. I mean, to be so far down, nearly 30 seconds off the lead, and to get up there and battle for the race lead, you must be so in tune with the beast.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really got comfortable then, and catching Schneider, you know, everyone knows who he is in GT world, and seeing his big German head bobbing around and looking in the mirror is a pretty cool feeling. And in the end, we got past him, which was really cool. But you know, there's a long way to go, and hopefully we can keep fighting till the end.
Mika Salo, is he still on your Christmas list? Talk us through that.
I gave him the international signal of hello down the straight, but he was just on cold tyres. But he definitely saw me and just cut me off, which was a bit weird. But you know, we got through with. I think we had a little touch, but no damage at all.
So the teammates running line astern here at the Porsches. 45 car actually the class leader in Class B. Button Moore behind the wheel. Behind them is the second team car. Just rolling through the timing on it to see where they are. They had some issues.
Off the pace a bit, yeah.
Yeah, they had some massive issues early on and had some fairly fundamental engine issues, which they've recovered from. So, two-car team from Redcorp Motorsport, actually being run by different teams in a way. The 45 car being run by 37th place, thanks, Heidi. Yeah, Rick Shaw behind the wheel. Their 45 car actually been running by Team BRM. The 35 car by the Redcorp Motorsport squad. And leading their class at the moment, looking very nicely indeed. And Barton Moore doing a great job as there's contact down at the final corner at Maguire's between the HTP Mercedes and the United Autosport Audi. So Mark Patterson behind the wheel of the Audi, Maxi Book behind the wheel of the SLS, a lap behind the United Audi. So that was for, not for track position, well, it was for track position, not for race position at this stage, but Maximilian Book has been charging his way forward. They've got that car back to 8th position after dropping 5 minutes earlier on in the race with that drama on the right front corner of that car after the contact with the Nissan. It's been so competitive, but they're back in the game. Maro Engel leads on the Pirelli class leaderboard here at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour. Andrew Cocotti second in the McLaren. Audi third. How's the variety in this field? Mika Salo only 7th at the moment in the Maranello Motorsport Ferrari, but they are still in contention in this race. Maxi Book, we saw there, 8th place for HTP in front of the first of the Class B cars for GWS personnel. That's Barton Moore in the Team BRM Redcorp Racing Porsche, and CJ David Calvert-Jones just behind. Michelin class leaderboard, we see the battles with Griffith still leading the way in Class C in the Ginetta. The Fiat continuing to pound around, and Andrew Medicki, one of the greats of this place, leading the way in the Mark Focus in Recaro Class I, going very nicely indeed. The Fiat still looking very reliable and very strong as well. So racing up and down the field in the Liqui-Moly 12-hour. There's dramas for the Lotus Exige from Donut King Racing as we jump to a break. We're only half an hour away from half race distance at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour. Welcome back to Bathurst, to dramas for the class-leading Porsche. It's off at the chase. The 45 car, Devarshan Padiachi, had done such a good job. They were leading their class, and they are off in a big way at the chase. We're just about to plug Aaron Noonan into the commentary box for the lunchtime stint, but we'll hold off in a sec. I think we can go down to the team in pit lane. The class leaders stuck in the sand. Here's Boydo.
Down here with the team at the moment, you can see that they're looking on in absolute disgust as to what's happened. There was an issue with the car a few moments ago. Mark Rundle sitting there looking at the monitor. John Paul Messengers down with us now. Now, what was the issue? We saw the car stop at the top of the mountain. Is that what's caused the car to go off with Bart at the helm?
He's had a long pedal. After the stop, he had a long pedal. Seemed to be all right for a lap and a half, and then he's just got to the end of Conrod and nothing, gone off.
A scary moment coming down Conrod in a Porsche with no brakes.
Yeah.
And no indication as to what's caused it?
Not at the minute, no. It was fine before the stop. After the stop, there's something wrong.
JP, thanks for your time.
No problem.
Let's have a look at this. This is not where you want to have any issues. Long pedal, pump, 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 then lock the rear brakes.
Throw it at the sand trap. Look at it, just launched over the grass, ends up in the sand trap on the other side. It's about now he knows, oh, hang on, this is where he's on the brake. There's nothing there to play with. Throw it left, fire it away. Dangerous to go into the sand sideways because it can dig in. We've seen cars launch there over the last few years in V8 supercars. He's very, very lucky. What this does, it means that the Class B fight's now separated by half a second.
We're going back to green, so we'll take a breath and resume in the second half. Don't have to change ends here like you do in soccer. All we've got to do is throw the green flag and let them go at it again. And it's still Nico Bastian that leads from Andrew Cocotti. Mika Salo in the third in the Ferrari. Oh, now that's really interesting. It's closed everything back up again. Bastian, who had a lead, has got Liqui-Moly now just 4 seconds behind him, Paul.
Yeah, what we've had, though, as a result of that safety car is now only 3 cars on the lead lap. We've already talked about Bastian and Liqui-Moly. Mika Salo has got himself back onto the lead lap as a result of staying out there and not making a pit stop. But the next car's up, Lawrence Vantour in the Audi number 3, Greg Crick in the Mercedes number 63. They've fallen off the lead lap now, as has the number 9 Audi, which now has at the wheel Mark Cheney doing the driving. But so we've got a lot of close battling going on out on the circuit as they try and sort themselves out, having been boxed in behind the safety car for 4 laps altogether.
Yeah, and none closer than what we're watching at the moment. That is Thomas Jürgen. These are slightly out of order, these cars, but they're all struggling for position coming back after the safety car. You know, they say in NASCAR's names, don't they, that yellows breed yellows, and this is exactly why that happens.
And that's a position change. That's Marcus Winkelhock going by Mark Cheney. So that's for position 5. Remember, they're on the same lap, 1 lap off the lead. Nico Bastian, he's gone. The number 1 Mercedes has run and gun from the green flag. The margin back to the McLaren is 5.9 seconds. Here he is on Conrod straight with that big Merc V8 opened up. Couple of cars back. There's the McLaren. In between is the number 3 Phoenix Audi that is actually 4th. He's just off the lead lap by only a couple of seconds.
Yeah, Eric Bannett, no better place for a rev head on a Sunday afternoon when the sun's shining than Mount Panorama. A good stint?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was my second stint for the day, and car's still running, and the guys are doing a great job. And yeah, just got to keep circulating and try and remain invisible to the faster guys.
As you know, having seen so many races up here, staying out of trouble, doing those consistent laps keeps you in the game. What are you hoping for at the end of the day?
Look, we knew that if we could, stay out of trouble and just, keep at a consistent pace, we'd have a good chance of being in the top 20. We're now running 14th or 15th, so we'll just see. We got no grand ambitions. We just want to keep circulating at a comfortable pace, and we'll end up where we end up. We're not chasing anyone.
So many professional race car drivers try and explain what it's like to drive around Mount Panorama. Give us your thoughts.
It's just, I love the mental side of it. I mean, it's physical and all that sort of stuff, but it's just such a huge mental challenge, and I think that's what it. People go on about the rise and the fall and all that sort of stuff, but I do think ultimately it's just mentally such a great workout. So I love it.
Taking a look at the GTC Ford Focus now. Now that outwardly looks like a front-wheel drive Ford Focus. You'd normally expect it to have a 1.8 or a 2-litre engine in it. And yes, you'd be right to say that, except this has got a fire-breathing V8 driving the rear wheels. And effectively what's under their noons is like a V8 supercar. It's a tube frame car, and this is a really clever and I think intriguing project that is very much Australia based.
This has been put together on the Gold Coast in Queensland by Paul Sepernich from Pace Innovations, his company. He's a former V8 supercar and touring car engineer. He's worked all over the world. They've put together these cars with Ryan McLeod, so a lot of Australian companies putting together the componentry. It's a 5-litre Ford Coyote engine in these cars. There's 3 of them running. They're built to what's being dubbed GTC, so they're essentially being built as a customer car for a South African series in Australia by an expat South African. I don't think that's ever happened before. But the beauty of this is it's like in V8 supercars, the new generation of cars, you change the bodywork and suddenly you've got a different type of car, even though you've got the same chassis underneath. Craig Lowndes is helmeting up and getting ready to go. Normally for the 1000 on lap 155, he'd be right in the middle of a fight for the podium, but he's going to take over at some stage from Mika Salo. This is at the top of the hill. Is it the BMW?
It is indeed the GWS car, isn't it?
And the
just
Grove
gone around.
Porsche was involved with Ben Barker.
Gee, there's never a dull moment, is there, boys? Nico Bastian continues to lead the way on the Pirelli outright leaderboard in front of Mika Salo. The Ferrari climbing back up the order in front of Andrew Cocotti. Gee, that McLaren has been good today, hasn't it? Lawrence Vantour going well. So 4 brands in the top 4. Greg Crick in the number 63, the Aussie Erebus car in P5 in front of Mark Cheney. That car's had a good day as well, the Hallmark Racing car. The Michelin Class leaderboard, Stuart Owens behind the wheel of the Seat, now leading Class D. Paul Gover, the motoring journo, behind the wheel of the Fiat. Grant Denyer doing a good job leading his class in the Recaro Invitational. This battle of the classes here at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour continues. Class C, Daniel Gaunt doing a good job in the Ginetta GT4, and that car's been pretty strong since this race started.
Here comes the second place car. Mika Salo, we've already seen Craig Lowndes is suited and booted and ready to go. You'd expect them then to throw a fresh set of Mitchies on that car. Michelin tyres battling at the front of the field against Pirelli.
And they're right there, and they've got stickers on them too. So a new set. Mika Salo out, Lowndes clambering in, not used to driving a left-hand drive car. Let's head down to Shea.
He may not be used to driving a left-hand drive car, but that certainly isn't stopping him from being very, very quick in the car. Craig, who started the car, is now getting back into it for his second shift. It will probably be his last of the race unless their plans change. A little further down the pit lane, the number 4 is having service done. They just got out the almighty saw and cut off the right half back of the rear bumper. That sound you're hearing is the car getting ready to go back out onto the track. Ben Barker staying behind the wheel.
Oh, it looks a bit pedestrian, doesn't it? Oh, that's an oil filler going in, pressurised oil going into the top of the engine. Looks a bit pedestrian sometimes because nothing's happening while the fuel's going in. That is the regulation. You'll see this at Le Mans as well. So if you're following Mark Webber in LMP racing next year in the World Endurance Championship, it's the same sort of thing. The engine has to be turned off. You can fuel the car or you can put tyres on the car, but you can't do them at the same time. Indeed, when the fuel's going in, the only thing that you can do is change the driver and wipe the screen. You're allowed to help the driver in and out. You can change his water bottle, you can help him do his belt up, but you can't touch the car for any other service. Once the fuel hose comes out, that's when everyone comes to life, and these guys practice and practice and practice. This was a moment or two ago on the Maguire's replay, down through the S's and down to the dipper. Oh, just a slight misjudgment there from the 63 Erebus Mercedes-Benz. Well, it had a run-in earlier on the right front of the car, and he's done the same side again on the back of that Daytona Coupe, and it's done way more damage than the Roux did earlier on, and that is not going to polish out. They'll be having that back in the box. Now, what the question is has it done any damage to that brake ducting and to any other cooling underneath the front right-hand side of that car? What it has done is made the decision to change the under tray and some of the accoutrement around the front of that Mercedes a little bit easier, because they can't send it like that. They just won't be allowed to. So that is, again, small mistakes, big consequences. That's what happens here on the mountain. And there's a little spin for the 35 Porsche as well. Well, they're just putting a wheel on that, but I'm certain they're going to roll that car back in the garage. Shea Adam is down in the pit lane.
To be honest, John, I don't think the team knew about the damage, because when it pulled up, they were as surprised as I was to see a headlight missing. They're telling Jack LeBlanc after the driver changed to fire the car back up. He's going back out. He is going back out. The 61 is coming in as well, which might be part of the issue for why they had to send the 63 back out. They don't have time to worry about that car when the lead car needs service at the exact same box at the same time.
The number 1 car is in the pit lane, and this is your race leader.
And these are...
Oh, and here's the McLaren as well, Paul.
Yeah, this is a scheduled stop for the Mercedes. In fact, both of the Mercedes had scheduled stops. That probably was what Shea was saying, that we were surprised to have the damage, because the 63 Mercedes was due in anyway. But the McLaren is in as well, and for my money, that's a little bit early. We haven't actually got up to date numbers of laps completed at the moment, but we've got the McLaren in anyway, and that is, to my mind, just a slight bit early, but it may well be that Andrew Kokodi is beginning to feel a bit tired out there.
I was going to say that's the second of a double stint in the heat of the day.
But it's more than a double stint, because he made an extra 5 laps with the, in fact, an extra 8 laps to refuel. So Kokodi having done a very, very long stint indeed, 2 and a bit.
Got a Porsche parked up on the top of the mountain. It's the 35 car, and that, I feel, in fact, it has brought out the... Well, I thought I saw a safety car board there, but there's nothing on the start-finish line. The Padici Sennheiser Rentcorp forklifts and Fiji Water-sponsored car on the run-up from Griffins to the cutting. And I tell you what, that's a great call by the race officials, because they've rolled him back into a gap, and if they can get him just a wee bit more further back, he's well out of harm's way. And once again, kudos to race control and our race director for not jumping on the full course caution straight away, right in the middle of pit stops. It would have caused chaos at the front of the field.
Well, John, just as you mentioned that, the safety car has been called, so it will cause a little bit of chaos. We're going to take that opportunity to go to a break. Racing resumes at the mountain when we come back from this. It's a great part of the world, New South Wales. It's got so much to offer, including this rather incredible racetrack, 6.213 Ks at Mount Panorama. It's thrown up everything today. Safety car not far away from going away. We'll go back to racing, John, and this should be a pretty thrilling restart.
So the BMW M5 is in the pit lane, and Nico Bastian gets on it really early as he comes down to Maguire's. And of course, the green flag hasn't gone out yet, so Craig Lowndes can't get by the lap traffic ahead of him. Now he sees the green flag, and Craig Lowndes has lost ground to the leader there. Great tactics by Nico Bastian in the Mercedes-Benz. The walking wounded includes now the 63 of Jacques Lebrock in fourth position with the right front wheel arch. The fender completely missing on that car, and it's starting to look like a late model dirt track car instead of the highly tuned GT3 machinery that car is. I've not a clue what that's going to be doing to the aerodynamic effect. The good news is, of course, he's got plenty of air on the brakes, but what is it going to do to the tyre wear and to the cooling of that big V8 engine? There is the McLaren of Clark Quinn in third position. So 1 from 88 from 37. Those are the 3 lead lap cars. That's the black and purple Mercedes-Benz for Erebus Racing, the 88 Maranello, Il Bellerosso, bright red Ferrari, and that McLaren orange 37 car in third position. Those are the top 3 cars on the lead lap, separated at the line by 6 seconds as we're now well inside the last 5 hours of this race. 4 hours and 51 minutes to go. Grove Racing Porsche there going through shot, and that car has been leading Class B, but has given up that lead to the 12 car, which is a little bit further up the road. The McElrea Racing Icebreak Competition Motorsports car, and we saw them with one of those little rubber splitters that go underneath the chin spoiler of the Porsche earlier on. That's not slowing down. Pat Long in 9th position and leading the GWS Recruitment Class B cars. This is the battle for 2nd and 3rd in class, and here is the class leader in GT4, Class C if you like. And the Ginetta G50 has outpaced the Lotus and has had fewer problems. Comes to a stop. And at the wheel of that, it's Daniel Gaunt bringing that G50 in. And he takes his time and gets out. No need to hurry. Another car on Pirelli's. Pirelli and Michelin, the 2 tyre manufacturers here. And battling at the head of the field with the McLaren on Pirelli's, of course. In goes the fuel. A little bit tardy there, weren't they, getting that in, but they know that there's no sense in rushing around. And Daniel, the outgoing driver, just helping his teammate into the belts. Often difficult with your hands device on to reach around and pull down the straps. The V6 engine, well, now he's fired that up.
9 laps of advantage for that car over the next car in its class, and I think there are only 2 cars left in the class now, because I'm not sure that we'll be seeing any more of the 55 Lotus.
Now I think Carl Reindler was in it before Daniel Gaunt, so that may well have been Mark Griffiths who jumped into that car. There is the 2nd place car in class, and that is the Tony Alford Donut King brand new Exige, not been without its problem. Peter Lim, who's at the wheel of that car at the moment. It looks absolutely stunning, and the Donut King paintwork, or wrap in this case, rather suiting the Exige Cup car. Nicely balanced little machine with the higher rear wing pointing it out as the S and the Cup car rather than the more standard machines we've seen in the past. Bernd Schneider recovering in the Erebus Racing pit lane. The lucky green towel.
Cooling down.
All about cooling down, says Bernd. And here are the Abarth 500s that have been launched into Australia at this race. Fiat Chrysler have been really sweating the asset here, bringing some journalists from major motorsport and motoring publications to give these 500 Abarths a run. And of course, the 500s do have a phenomenal motorsport heritage. Gabriele Raffanelli, who used to run GT1 Ferraris, and indeed we were talking about one of his cars coming down here as with Alan Simonson and David Brabham in the Cooper's colour car. His first race car was the original version of the Abarth 500, and Paul, you were describing them. They were little pocket rockets before we'd even invented that, with the tailgate, if you like, which was the engine cover in those days, just propped open to help cool the engine down.
And help the aerodynamics as well. But it's interesting, actually. I don't know if when we get Shay back in the pits, you can find out what happened to the third one of those, because we've only got 2 of them, and we've only had 2 of them for the best part of the race. So quite what happened to the third one, we never really got to the bottom of, but it finished up in the garage, and as I say, whether that was a problem or whether the drivers just got fed up of driving it, we don't know, but that was posted as one of the very early retirements.
Yeah, disappointing for them, Paul, for sure. Here's the Pirelli outright leaderboard. 4.5 hours to go on the Liqui-Moly 12 hour. Let's have a look at some interesting names in this. Rahel Frey, the Swiss female racing car driver for Phoenix Racing, doing a good job. 7th place at the moment, but that car's still in the mix. And Mark Eddy, the 2-time Aussie GT champion, going well just behind. And here's the Michelin class leaderboard, showing Richard Billington behind the wheel of the Seat, going nicely in the Century Batteries Class D. Greg Heddy and Adam Gowans leading the way in their respective classes, behind the Ginetta in Class C. Let's go to pit lane. That's where we find our race leader.
This car has run immaculately. It is not immaculate in itself. The trip over the sand at the top of the mountain was the big drama moment for this car, and ripped off part of the rear diffuser and part of the rear bodywork. Nico Baston has got out, and it will be a brand new set of Michelin going onto that car. They went to the harder compounds. Most of the teams went to the harder compounds before midday, sort of in the middle part of the morning.
The other question is going to be whether the brakes will last for the full 12 hours.
They were looking at that there quite clearly. They were having a look at the front end. Oh, was that dropped down just a little bit early there? It looked like the guy in the left rear only just got the wheel nut on, and I'm not sure they're happy about that. Are they going to have another look at that left rear? It's being held for a moment.
Can't think they fire the car.
It's rolling. It's fired just about and crawls out. That is not a good getaway. No.
Still not going.
Stopped again.
They were struggling to select a gear or trying to fire the car up there, John. So massive dramas for our race leader, the car that's not dominated today, but certainly held the top spot for a good chunk of this race.
And it hasn't managed to keep the lead, because against my expectations, and I wasn't sure of the McLaren, but the McLaren has gone longer on this stint. So the McLaren Clark Quinn is back into the lead of this race, and that's a lead that he's not held for some little time, not since lap 109.
How many leaders of the race have we had, Paul?
4 different cars and 11 changes of lead.
And that's change of lead at the start-finish line, of course?
Yes, I'm afraid I don't count. When there was one when Van Giesbergen went over the mountain, but
just for about 100 metres.
It wasn't even 100 metres. But
the race average is 5 different leaders. We've had that on. Actually, it averages 5.5 different leaders. We're exactly split between 6 and 5. There has been no other different number. So
they're now going to do brake pads on the rear end of that car. Pads only. They've not got a set of discs out. They've got the pry bar out. They're looking at it. I have to say, I did think they dropped that car before the rear wheel was on the other side. I wonder if that's nipping up.
Oh, yeah, I wonder if the heat soak as well, if they might have had the pressure on the brakes, and of course, during it sitting there, it heats up, and that might have just clamped the clamp the pads onto the rotor, new rotor going on the rear of that car.
New brake disc coming out at whole brake assembly. This is taking too long, guys. This is taking too long. They're doing it in the lane, which they're quite entitled to do. But remember, you can only have 6 people working on the car. That is very, very hot in there. They don't have the right tools. They're having to struggle around. They're bringing somebody else out, trying to release the pins to get the hub loose and be able to release the caliper. And that is the invitation class leader.
And selecting reverse and then first gear and driving off and avoiding a safety car. Now, we've not seen much drama at Falcon Elbow, have we? We saw Thomas Jaeger dive down the inside of the Nissan earlier on, but outside of that, good recovery though. Just the flare on the side there, a bit of bodywork coming off, but they'll head to pit lane and get that fixed.
Is that a black flag that we are seeing on the start-finish line?
It's a black flag and a number being held out, yeah.
We will see in a moment what that is, because they are very...
88.
Oh my goodness, it's the race leader! The race leader, the drama continues. We've just lost the #1 car with brake problems, and now, all of a sudden, Craig Lowndes has been given the black flag. We've know not for what at the moment, but the drama continues. 3 hours, 45 minutes and 50 seconds to go, and the number 88 is being held out over the start-finish line by our volunteer marshals, and thanks to them, there goes the 37 car through. And where is Lowndes? Has he already gone through? He must have. He's up the mountain.
There he is, top of the hill.
Top of the hill already. He will see it next time round. He's got 1 minute and 13 on the 37 car. He must now come to pit lane, and they should be on the radio to him right now and finding out what that is and whether they can get him in the lane.
Yeah, the only conjecture I will put, the only speculation I will put, is that there's been an email sent out to all cars reminding teams that after a safety car there is to be no passing before the control line when restarting, even if the car in front is to be lapped. Now that's a general purpose email to all teams, but it might be coincidence that that has arrived at the same time as this black flag.
Well, there's plenty of reasons that could bring out this penalty, Paul, and they're very, very strict in pit lane at this event for safety reasons about what can and cannot happen during the stop, and personnel being over the line working on the car. So wondering if that might be part of the reason. Either way, it's going to be a blow for Maranello Motorsport, because more than 30 seconds in transit time to go through pit lane. Now, we're hearing from race control that it was a drama in the pit stop with items being left in the working lane. So there's a red line that separates the garages and the working side of pit lane. Have a look, right-hand side of screen, you can see the pit board resting against the side of the garages. Now, if that hasn't been removed when this car is released, that is a penalty, because you are not allowed to leave anything in the working side of pit lane. So this is a replay, looking at the stop, personnel over the line, but the board didn't go back. That's why there's a penalty.
Now there's more right rear dramas, and once again, this is the class leader in the B category. This car has not long since been out. Pat Long came in. He didn't change tyres, I believe. He stayed in a double stint, and the right rear has been the problem tyre for everyone who's had punctures this weekend, or at least in the race today.
Well, it's a loaded up tyre on these cars, John, with so many left-hand corners and so many of them very, very quick across the top of the mountain. Did that just spin the belt right off the tyre?
Yeah, I think it did. So he hasn't got far to go, though. Pat Long is very experienced. He'll bring this car in, and he's done a good job, Crailsey, in getting that car back without doing any suspension damage. Now, they have got a little bit of a cushion, Paul, but not much.
No, it was a lap. Well, no, it was more than a lap, wasn't it? It was two and a bit laps of the advantage that Pat Long had.
He's lost a lap of that already in touring back.
If it's just getting the wheel off and putting a new one on, they should still have the lead of the class, but as you say, it's not much.
The inside of the tyre is rattling around there, and I don't like what that's doing to the rear suspension. And don't forget, that's where the engine is on the 911, and there's cooling and oil coolers back there too.
Yeah, it makes it difficult too. So it's just all the secondary damage that something like this causes, that tyre flailing around in
in the guard. There's more of information from pit lane. It's becoming a busy place, Shay Adam.
It is becoming a busy place, and for all the wrong reasons for the number 12 of Patrick Long. He had just pitted only a few minutes ago. The right rear tire on this car is obliterated, gentlemen. I mean, quite frankly, there is nothing left. It is a rim. Thankfully, the co-driver was already ready to go, and David Calvert-Jones is now taking over control of the car for his stint. The crew guys are getting 4 new Michelins out. Ooh, look at that carcass. That is just nothing left on that tire. How Pat Long even managed to get the car back with it like that without ripping up the entire rear right portion of this body, I don't know.
It's the second time, Shay, that this car has had a right rear puncture. David Calvert-Jones, if you remember, was behind the wheel at Maguire's and had to do a full lap, so that's twice. Oh, and Pat Long, he's not happy, is he? He is not happy at all. And Shay's going to be brave enough to stick a microphone underneath Pat Long's nose when he's taking a breath. I wonder if there's maybe been a bit of contact there because Pat slammed the door in the sort of way that suggests that that just didn't give up on its own.
Yeah, it's entirely possible, and he was not outspoken, but had some comments to make about the traffic earlier on in the weekend, as did several other drivers. So there's Pat Long. He's in the Works Porsche race suit, taking a deep breath. It looks like he's worked, but he's a fit man. He doesn't look like he's worked massively hard, and he's standing by in the garage. What's he got to say, Shay?
Pat, what happened?
Oh, we had a puncture. There's a lot of debris out there and gravel. The Grove car who we're fighting with has had a couple as well, so we're sort of even. Just going to keep our heads down, not let the emotion get to us. The car's super. We're just out there riding. We were able to gain a lap on them in the last stint under green, so we're confident. CJ's out there for a little bit, and then Alex is going to finish it off, but having a lot of fun, and really appreciate the support from Icebreak.
Now, the number 50 car, this is the Mark Focus, an Aussie-built enduro racer, has spun at the Falcon Tyres elbow, right at the top of Mount Panorama, just before you run down onto Conrod Straight.
Yeah, he's facing the wrong direction. You just got a clue there with one of the cars going back. We've seen 2 issues for these cars. The first time that car rolled away, this time that's not going to happen. The right front of that car is not how it came out of the shop, and I'm not a suspension engineer, but I don't think that's the right amount of camber, and I expect to see the BMW M5 safety car roll, and there is the confirmation on the start-finish line in front of us, and on the top of the screen, the safety car rolls for the 8th time in the 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours.
We're a long way short of the record number of safety car interventions, but this is why we're under caution. The Phoenix Audi charged down the inside. There just wasn't a hole. The Mark Focus was driving down the middle of the road. Probably didn't give a huge amount of racing room, but gee, the Phoenix Audi was coming through regardless, and it's just fed the Focus into the wall. So we're under safety car at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour. We'll take a quick break and come back with racing on the other side of this.
This is going to be something to watch, because the race could play out right here in terms of who's going to have a shot. And as soon as the safety car's in, Greg Crick in that Erebus Mercedes can go. Everyone else is bundled up behind that Fiat before they get to the control line, which they get to now. Now they can go for it. And the faster cars can go through, and Mika Salo already on the inside, working his way past in that bright red Ferrari. But Greg Crick has gone up the road, but Salo's been consistently one of the fastest cars in the race today. This is his moment to shine, and the orange McLaren, you can see it just going out of shot. It's right in contention too.
And here's a bit of great news for Greg Crick. He's got his teammate, only Bernd Schneider, multiple DTM champion, as tail end Charlie. He's not in this race. He's 5 laps down, but he's between the Mercedes-Benz and the Ferrari and the 3rd place McLaren. This could work out very nicely for the 63 car.
You know your race is going okay when you've got one of the greatest German touring car drivers and a man that won all but one of the major endurance races in the world last year as your rear gunner. It's just a remarkable circumstance that Greg Crick finds himself in, but there is still 2 hours to go in this motor race. And as we mentioned, we're heading towards what we think could be a record distance, though that last safety car did not help out pace for this one. The pressure on down at Maranello Motorsport.
Captured, absolutely captured, and the team having a little go at him as well. Father and son team, that is the Clark Pair Fils down in the pit lane, the VIP pet food guy. Tony has had a go. Tony Clark kept his end up nicely in the middle and gave that extra hour so that they had the options to get Andrew Kirkcaldy back in this car now to save Shane van Gisbergen to the end. All tactical, not always just about speed out on the track.
And Van Gisbergen been one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack, the fastest driver all day long. So here's the rear gunner in play for Bernd Schneider, following his teammate around, protecting him from this guy, Mika Salo in the flying Ferrari with 240 laps, approaching 1,500 kilometres of Mount Panorama today with 2 hours to go.
I'm not sure if you let Schneider go through. Well, he has. He's gone through. That's interesting. They must feel that they've got half a chance of getting some of the 5 laps that they are in arrears back. Now down to 4 just. Maybe he can just trail him round a little bit. Maybe Greg Crick can follow in the wheel tracks, literally, of a multiple champion and the defending champion from this race last year in his team car. But Salo is coming. Salo is inexorably drawing in towards the lead of this race. It would be very, very emotional indeed if this Ferrari could get somewhere near the victory as they go Mountain Straight for the 242nd time. There's Craig Lowndes. He is out of the car and getting ready.
Adele, the team physio at Maranello Motorsport, giving Lowndes a rub down just out the back of the garages. You get your drivers nice and loose before it, so get them relaxed. They've got to be fit. We all know they're great athletes, but they're dealing with some very high cabin temperatures today, so they need to deal with the heat. They need to deal with the pressure of this great motor race. So Lowndes just limbering up, getting ready for that final stint. This is Mika Salo. We're on board the flying Ferrari, the screaming 4.5 litre V8 behind him. And just look how fast these cars are across the top of the mountain.
And listen to the engine, feather on, feather off. And look how quick he comes to the scene of the accident we watched earlier on. Wait for the grid on the right-hand side, turn in now. And it's just a lift there and back on the throttle. That is awesome from Mika Salo. This man knows how to pedal. Down through the gearbox, hit the curb on the left, mind the wall on the right. You get close to it, but not too close. Dropping down into the dimmer, down into the gear. Quick squirt of power, get the car settled down, down to the Forest elbow coming up on the left-hand side. Now brake down, 1-2 gears and turn in.
And onto Conrod Straight, which in these cars, they're not actually as fast as a V8 supercar in a straight line, but you wait till you see how late they brake at the very end of it. So paddle shift gearbox, you can see Mika picking gears. He's closing right into the leader. So grab 6 gear as they get to the crest and then they run down to the chase. 275, 280. They'll just be touching 285 now. Still flat, still flat, still flat. Wow. Brake at 170 metres and down to 3rd gear and get it turned in at the top of the hill. He's looming ever closer to our race leader, Greg Crick. This is on for the lead with less than 2 hours to go.
Not a hint of a lift as he went through into the chase there. Now looking back from the leader, that is what Greg Crick can see through his rear view mirror, and what it says is you're not going to be the leader very much longer. He needs to be sensible about this. Everything in Greg Crick's mind as a racing driver will want him to fight against that Ferrari, but that's not his job right now as the McLaren goes through behind and has dropped down into 4th position because the 84 HPT of Maxi Burke has gone ahead of him. That's the Mercedes-Benz. Greg now just needs to be sensible. He can't win the race now for the 63 team, but he could lose it if he tries to defend too hard.
The Ferrari continues to lead the Pirelli leaderboard. In fact, it's Greg Crick, Salo 2nd, then Maxi Burke, Andrew Kirkcaldy 4th for McLaren. Audi's are next in 5th and 6th position. This race is building at Mount Panorama. Lots more to come from the mountain and the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour. This is it now, a battle of 3. This is impressive stuff from Maximilian Buch, the young German, has hauled this HTP car along with his teammates Harold Prima and Thomas Jaeger right into this, and Mika Salo's in trouble. He's harassing the back of Crick more so than ever because he knows the straight line potential of the car behind him.
And he had to get out of the throttle there in the middle of the corner. He was on it early, thought he was going to get a run down the inside. He had to back out of it, and that could be curtains for the Ferrari in 2nd. Watch that light-coloured Mercedes-Benz. That's the Erebus Racing pit. It's now not just about 1st and 2nd, it's about 1st, 2nd and 3rd down through the chase, and this is the battle for the lead. 3 cars, 2 Mercedes-Benz, 1 Ferrari, 1 former Formula 1 driver, a European touring car and endurance champion, and a car dealer.
And while they do this, as Buch looks down the inside, this is for 2nd.
Nailed it, absolutely nailed it. Maximilian Burke comes back, just rolls off the brakes as he goes to the apex, and Mika Salo will not be best pleased about that, but what he will try and do is hang on to the back of that lighter coloured Mercedes Mercedes-Benz and try and use him to drag him back to the leader and then maybe get them both in one swift manoeuvre.
I don't think the 88 car is racing the 63, and a gesture from Salo. What's going on? I'm frustrated. I don't have enough straight line speed to challenge these SLSs at Mount Panorama. That's why they're such a good package. Middle of screen, middle of that row. That's Jeremy Moore with a hat on. Craig Lowndes, full-time engineer in V8 Supercars. He's running strategy for Maranello this weekend.
And he's talking to Mika Salo and saying, Mika, calm down, calm down. I know we haven't got the speed in a straight line. We'll get him later, boy. We'll get him later. Now the battle for first and second becomes an inter-marque rivalry. Erebus Mercedes-Benz, the guys who championed bringing the AMG GT3 cars over to Australia, and the new pretenders, HTP, with the guys from Europe bringing some international flavour to the mountain. And this is the battle for first, second and third, and we've still got an hour and 43 minutes to go.
So the Ferrari couldn't get past the Mercedes. What about the Mercedes trying to get past the Mercedes? So two identical cars now, first and second in the race with the Ferrari watching on. And while these guys dice, that will bring Cocoldi back into the mix in the McLaren as well.
And don't forget the damage on the front of Greg Crick's car. That's got to be giving him some kind of aerodynamic disadvantage. Does that mean that Maxi Burke will be able to use that in his favour at this part of the circuit? Well, he's not really close enough, is he? As they had to go past some of the slower cars. Now we're getting down towards, in the next 10 or 15 minutes, what will be last pit stop times. Paul Truswell, who's going to have to blink first?
Well, they're all going to have to pit roughly together because they all pitted together on the previous time. But by my reckoning, it'll be the Erebus car, the car that leads the 63, which will be in first, and the one that will be in last is the other Mercedes, the HTP car. Ooh. So they're the ones perhaps with the box seats.
And coming down to Maguire's the final corner, Maxi Burke. This is where he got second place, and this is where he gets the lead. Thank you very much indeed. And how frustrating is that going to be, watching on from behind for Mika Salo, because he's tried lap after lap, but Greg is not giving up, is he? Greg Crick. Oh, was there a touch there? That was very close indeed, going into Hell Corner. It's not going to do anything for Mika Salo's mood to see just how easy Maxi Burke got down the inside, and he hasn't been able to get anywhere near the back of that green and black machine.
So from third to second to first in the space of a couple of laps for the young German in the white SLS AMG that leads the race. And this has been a storming drive. Very, very impressive. They started this race 11th, and Thomas Jaeger, the German who teamed with Erebus last year to win the race, there's a sense of irony given who they're racing at the moment, dragged this car kicking and screaming from the back of the field and got it up in towards a race-winning potential position.
Greg Crick held up there as he went up the cutting, had to get off the power, and that's allowed Mika Salo just to have another little sniff. Will he be able to drag back up to the second place car? But it is freed Maxi Burke in that HTP Mercedes-Benz like a cork from the bottle. Now he's got to do qualifying laps till he comes into the pits. He's the last man into the pit lane. He's got to build as much lead as he can for the 84 car. And here comes the Ferrari down the outside into the top of the S's. Almost a chance for a pass there, using the slower car as a pick, but there's no way you can go too wide through there unless you're Shane Van Gisbergen, as we showed you in the highlights package.
Yeah, he's about the only one that could do it. 250 laps now in the books of the Liqui-Moly 12-hour with an hour and 40 to go. That's the key number. We don't need to look at laps in this race. It's all about time and working backwards, boxed in behind a lap car. Mika Salo will try and get the toe from the Porsche. Now he pulls in behind Greg Crick down Conrad. This has to be his best opportunity to get past this pesky SLS AMG, and the place to do it is at the chase.
But Greg Crick's done his job. He's held the lead. He's done exactly what he wanted. He hasn't allowed the Ferrari to go by and get a lead. I think you pull him in now and put in one of the other drivers and let them run the hour and 40 minutes to the end of the race. Does he go into the pit lane? He's over to the left-hand side of the circuit. No, he stayed out this time. And surely the Ferrari must be able to get down the inside this time. He's nowhere near. And how annoying is that going to be for Mika Salo? He's still there, though. Look at the right-hand side. The Mercedes-Benz pulls away. He was halfway alongside coming out of Maguire's, but he can't get into position to pass. Yes, he can! Comes from way back. Mika Salo pulls the old over and under and gets through into second place. And there's a huge cheer down in the Maranello Motorsport pit.
Great stuff from the former Finnish F1 driver down the inside. Couldn't get it done, but then used the strength of the Ferrari under brakes and fired it up the inside at turn one. Great, close, hard racing in the dying stages of the 12-hour. And just brilliant stuff from Salo. Greg Crick was awesome, though, and used the strengths of his car to defend as well as he possibly could. Here's the Ferrari, pulled back in, got a bit of toe, and then pulled out and just sent it. Down the inside it goes. Great stuff. The HTP Mercedes leads the race. Boydo's in pit lane with a man who did a lot of work earlier on today.
Yeah, no disrespect, Thomas. To find you guys at the front of the field, we weren't expecting it. From what I hear, you guys weren't expecting it either. Well done.
Yeah, we're absolutely lucky. In the end, the team did a great strategy because we were already 2 laps down. And then, yeah, we did quite good lap times. We were lucky with the safety cars, and now we're in the lead, so it will be pretty tough towards the end. So we'll see who has to stop once or twice for fuel. But after all these problems we had in the last 2 days, we can be really, really lucky and happy to be back in the game again.
Well, they really are back in the game in this motor race. It's a fantastic performance from HTP Motorsport, the Pirelli outright leaderboard. Let's look a little bit further back because there's been some great performance here. Marcus Winkelhock, the XF1 driver, doing a great job for United Autosport. They're in P6 at the moment. El Bamba behind the wheel of the Grove Porsche going well, and they're leading Class B for GWS personnel. Tony Alford going well on the Lotus, now on top in Ridges Class C. Ben Schutz behind the wheel of Daytona Coupe, and they're looking good indeed for Century Batteries. Eddie behind the wheel of the Fiat, they're leading the way. Car number 96 for Chrysler Group Financial, and Andrew Medicki behind the wheel in Recaro Class I. So 38 minutes to go. This race evolving. This is for track position between Lawrence Van Thorpe, the GT World Champion, and Shane Van Gisbergen, the World Champion of Excitement here in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. It's been exciting stuff. Craig Lowndes leads the race by 30 seconds with 38 minutes to go.
I also have calculated that both Lowndes and Book are going to have that same problem of a splash of fuel they're going to need. Unless we have a safety car, they're 2 laps short of the race distance if we have full racing speed from here to 6:15, the closing, the end of the race.
Can Lowndes not just back it off enough that he can control it at the head of the field? He's got half a minute between him and the rest of the field. This is a sign going out of Van Gisbergen. Let's have a look to see what this says before Paul answers it. Map 1 push, right, full reach, go, go, go. It's basically saying, we've taken you off the leash now, son. If you're going to win this race, you've got to give it stick. Let's go back to what I said about Craig Lowndes. Can he match his pace and look for 6:13 plus 1 lap, because that's what the regulation says?
He'll have to wind down the mapping and do less and do less fast lap times. You just have to slow the pace, and that might not be enough with Van Gisbergen pushing hard.
And that's what's happening. Trusses Lowndes last time round 2:11.5. I think HTP Motorsport have gone, we're gonna have to stop anyway. Go as hard as you can, because Maxi Book, a low or 2-minute 5.7, 6 seconds quicker. He is flying. Lowndes is going to try and get there without stopping. HTP are going to try and get there with a stop.
The thing about saving fuel is you've got to do that from the start of your stint, really, to make the difference. I think Lowndes has not been soft pedalling, but I certainly think that he has been matching his times to the guys behind. Now it's about managing that gap. It's down to 25 seconds between him and Maxi Burke in second place, but the real charger will be Van Gisbergen, and that is 1 minute and 2 seconds with just 37 minutes to go. And the bright orange McLaren has been set to go, and Van Gisbergen goes down the inside and takes the position. That's 5th place. That is 5th place and 4th place, and Davidson is not that far up the road. Will Davidson will be the next target for Shane Van Gisbergen. Now this is what happened to the leader a couple of moments ago. This is how close things can be on the mountain. I'm going right, I'm going left, and he's right across the grass. How does Craig Lowndes hold onto that? I just want to have a look at the back, the white colour on the back of that Maranello Ferrari, because a couple of pit stops ago, they're laughing now, they wouldn't have been if he'd gone into the wall. Phew, I bet you Lowndes he's not laughing.
Oh, Porsche in the wall at the top of the mountain. Massive impact. That's just coming over the hill on the run to McPhillamy Park, and there's fluid and debris everywhere. Car stranded, and this could be a critical moment in the race with Maxi Book closing in on the race leader. This could close it right up for a safety car induced sprint to the flag. Door open and driver getting out under his own steam. That's great to see. but massive dramas towards the end of the race.
With just on 20 minutes to go, in fact under that now, 18 minutes to go, we're on the cusp of something magical with the Maranello Ferrari leading by 17 seconds. Lowndes has picked up his pace again. Burke, the Mercedes-Benz, in second place, is trying his hardest and takes 2 seconds out of the lead at that time. It's below 16 from first to second. In third place, the 63 Erebus Mercedes-Benz is 10 seconds further back, and he's got 20 seconds on Shane van Gisbergen, the man who is most likely. He is the man who has been the star, and the safety car is rolling from the end of the pit lane. Full course caution with 18 minutes to go. This actually doesn't really, well, it's going to change everything because it'll close everything up. We have the top 5 within a minute, but Craig Lowndes gets to save fuel and will be able to turn the wick up, so it's not the worst thing that can happen for the Maranello Ferrari, Paul.
Yeah, that's right, and also Maxi Buch was right on the cusp of his fuel as well, so this will help him in the number 84 HDP Mercedes, so it's going to close it up, but it's going to mean that everybody can go flat out.
Let's go down to Grant Boyden in the pit lane. All sorts of emotions running high down there, Boyden.
Oh, you have no idea. The very moment that screen went yellow and the safety car came out, the entire VIP crew jumped for joy. And Clark Quinn, that's exactly what you were looking for. This puts you right back in the hunt.
Yeah, we'll be right behind the boys now. And, geez.
You're pulling your hair out now. You had a tough weekend too. You've got the flu and your body just hasn't been 100%. This is just really taking the lot out of not only your body but your mind as well.
I'm going to have the next week off, I reckon. But, you know, it's just been an incredible week. And, you know, the boys have done such a great job. The car is sensational. The McLaren is just fantastic. The Pirellis are holding up really well. And, you know, the whole team's doing a fantastic job. So, you know, SVG, he is a legend, and he'll be the next legend that we're talking about that's going around Bathurst. So, you know, all hail him. But, you know, we're still in 4th, so we can't be celebrating too much yet, but he has got pace. So, let's see how we go.
Fingers, legs, and anything else you can find, keep them all crossed.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate.
Tense times in pit lane. Here is how they are poised on the Pirelli leaderboard into the final stage of what's been an unbelievable day at the mountain. Lowndes, the Bathurst champion, leading one of the best young GT drivers in the world in Maximilian Buch, and Will Davison and Shane van Gisbergen set to battle for 3rd and 4th, and Lawrence Vanther and the Audi still in contention in P5. The Michelin class leaderboard shows Lowndes, Bamber, Lemus, Billington, Youlden and Denyer all on top of their respective classes. The run to the flag, it'll be a thriller, is coming your way after this short break. Welcome back to Mount Panorama for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour. The safety car about to disappear and a thrilling sprint to the flag in store. John Hindhaugh, Craig Lowndes leads the way, but this has got all the makings of a Bathurst classic.
Can you hold your breath for Crailsey? Because the next 15 minutes might just be like that. Craig Lowndes leads the motor race, gets on the power nice and early. The M5 is in the pit lane. There's no issue about him overtaking that car as he comes down to Maguire's. He's got the drop. And the 2 Fiats come into the pit lane. That's great news for Maxi Buch and everybody who's coming through behind him. Big applause from Maranello Motorsport on the pit wall. Maxi Buch then in second place. He is charging up. Shane van Gisbergen, there he is in the McLaren going across the line. Heck, the speed on the start-finish straight when you see it from that whip pan on the camera. They are really hauling up Mountain Straight again. And the great thing for Craig Lowndes is the fact that there's 5 cars on the lead lap. He's not just racing 1 car, he's racing 5, but they're all racing each other as well.
So Lowndes has got ground on Maxi Buch, and there's the Lamborghini in between. There goes Shane van Gisbergen in the 63 car just in front. That is for track position. That is for 3rd on the road. For the podium, the Liqui-Moly 12-hour. So van Gisbergen is in a prime position. They're going to have 4 or 5 laps maximum in this race in the next 11.5 minutes. 18:03 local time, 18:15 checkered.
18:13 plus a lap. That's what you're looking for. 18:13 plus 1 lap. And now we've had half a day's racing coming down to 10 minutes to 600 seconds. And it is broken down like that because every single fraction is going to count. And already Shane van Gisbergen is on the back of the 63 car and he's coming down the hill now, down from the top of the mountain. He can't afford to be patient. He's got to make the moves. This is like one of those challenges on a video game when you know you've only got a certain amount of laps and you've got to get by. There's going to be paid traded. There could be no quarter asked or given here, and Will Davison will know that. He's got a fast car in a straight line, and that's going to be the issue for the McLaren. We saw the Ferrari had trouble with the Mercedes-Benz earlier on. Has the McLaren got anything more in a straight line?
It's been better in a straight line than the Audis and the Ferraris this weekend, so I like Van Gisbergen's chance, but he's been unbelievable under brakes this weekend, so watch them go into the chase. This is for third, the longest race in Australian motorsport, and it goes down to the final 10 minutes of the day that has given us everything. It's been unbelievable. Lowndes about to come to the start-finish line now. Crosses the line, a 7.3 first rolling lap. 6.7 for Maxi Book. The gap's 2.4. Van Gisbergen will come to the line and does a 7.1, chasing Will Davison for third.
And they go down to the first corner, hell corner. You know, I've just thought the other thing that does help Lowndes, apart from the fact he can turn up the engine map and get a little more power out of that Ferrari, is he's got a clear track in front of him, at least for 3 or 4 laps, until he gets onto the back of that train. Then all hell breaks loose because everybody is so packed up. He's going to have to start taking risks that he wasn't doing before when he had 16 or 20 seconds. But first of all, Van Gisbergen has got to get past this 4th place car, this 3rd place car of Will Davison. This is for a spot on the podium, but it's not about 3rd place for Van Gisbergen. It's about someone who is another 8 seconds up the road, and that's the leader of this race, Craig Lowndes.
We've seen Van Gisbergen pass on the outside, the inside. He's always driven undercars today. Do not put any corner out of the question for him to pull a move on Will Davison, but Davo's one of the best and brightest in the sport. He will be well up to this. Across the top of the mountain they go, the McLaren following the thundering SLS Merc with bits of bodywork flying off at 220k across the top of the mountain.
Where is he going to make the move? We've seen him pull off some unbelievable manoeuvres in places that we've never seen passers made in the whole history of the racing on the mountain. 5 laps to go, we reckon, on time. It'll take us to 296 laps, and that would be a new distance record here for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours. Again, the issue is the big torque of that big V8 Mercedes-Benz. There's no doubt in my mind that if it was a clear track and the leader was 8 seconds up the road, that Van Gisbergen would get to him, but there's not 1 but 2 Mercedes-Benz between him and the leader. Here's the second one, 2nd place, and he's closing down on the leader.
It's 1.7 seconds, Craig Lowndes to Maximilian Book, so Lowndes just playing the game. He's done this before, knows what it's all about. Ferrari versus Mercedes at the front. You start to worry if you're Craig Lowndes, if the Mercedes gets within a couple of car lengths, because it's so good in a straight line, it becomes very difficult to defend on the run up to the mountain and the 1.8 kilometre long run down Conrod Straight. That's the look down at HTP Motorsport. What a job that team has done today to get themselves back into contention.
And they fancy themselves. You can see that there's nerves there, but that gap is going down. But once again, let's talk about the different strengths and weaknesses, relative weaknesses of these cars. The Ferrari is super fast over the top of the mountain. The Mercedes-Benz is very quick on the straights. This is a massive compromise circuit because you have 3 parts of the circuit, 1 very twisty, 2 very quick.
You cannot underestimate the experience factor.
Here's the traffic.
This is when mountain experience will pay off for Craig Lowndes compared to the young German that's chasing him down. This is where Craig needs to put every ounce of his laps and the experience he's gained and all his success at this place to absolutely drive this Ferrari as straight to square as he can to keep it in front of the flying Mercedes, but it's there. The gap's 0.4 of a second. There's 7 minutes to go and it's on for the lead.
And you know what? That Mercedes-Benz is doing a great job. Everybody getting out of the way of the leaders. Everybody will be on the pits to car radio. But I think that Mercedes-Benz might just be close enough here, you know, to have a little drag and have a look down Conrod Straight at 285 kilometres in about 15 or 20 seconds time when they turn right-handed into the chase. These 2 cars may well be side by side. Maxi Berg is giving it everything. No Everyone can look down in the pit lane. Everyone is holding their breath, and the 6.5 minutes of racing still to go.
5/10, but the margin's redundant. It's all about track position and who can place their car the best to get to the checkered flag. Unbelievable battle, and that it comes down to this is incredible. And Lowndes is right on the ragged edge through the kink in the chase, and look how close the SLS gets. If Lowndes can beat him off the mountain on the final lap of this, he'll be a chance because he'll drive that thing down the middle of the road. But if Maxi gets a run, it might be too tough for him to hold on.
Don't forget, we've seen the Mercedes-Benz changing the brake pads, and that may well be the difference in these cars, because I've been surprised at the pace of that Maranello Ferrari, but look at how much later that Mercedes-Benz is braking, and that, which I thought had taken them out of the lead, that might be the master stroke. We didn't know it at the time, and all of a sudden, it's coming to that HTP Mercedes-Benz as they go up the mountain straight. The leader is going to have to stay driver's right and send him the long way around into Griffin's Bend. Surely he can't go from that far around. They're side by side. He's gone through. He knows it's into the lead, but the Ferrari has the racing line and there's no way through. Racing Room, Aston Given, brilliant stuff from two top drivers, Craig Lowndes and Maxi Berg. Inches from disaster, but fight on into the last 5 minutes.
It's Mark Winterbottom and Jamie Whincup from October all over again. It's unbelievable how this place continues to deliver. What a finish.
We're based just off the media room here on the pit straight, and everybody is staring at the screens. The timing screen doesn't matter now. It's all about the last 5 minutes, 3 laps, possibly only 2, between these 2, 3, 4 cars and the winner's podium for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hours of 2014. Richard Craill, this has been another cracker, and it's not over yet.
I just want to confirm, I think Van Gisbergen's got past Will Davison for 3rd, so I think the McLaren could be on the podium. So, and Maxi, yeah, held up. That could be the difference. 1st to 2nd in this motor race, and more lap cars for the SLS to deal with. Here's the move. This is 3rd. Van Gisbergen trying to make a hole where there wasn't one.
Trying to go down the inside in the faulted tyres, hairpin, and nearly gets pushed into the wall. Don't forget the timing glitch on that 63 car. We need to always confirm those positional changes by seeing it on the track, because they lost their transponder when they lost most of the right-hand side bodywork of that car. It hasn't slowed them down. The lap traffic stays to driver's right, and Craig Lowndes has got breathing room. It's 18:11, 2 more minutes, and then 1 more lap. After that, there's 2 more laps left of the motor race. It'll be laps 2:96, I think, as they go through. Paul Truswell nods. This is the battle for the final step on the podium, and these 2 guys, I think, are slightly holding each other up, and they're not getting back to the leading pair.
And they've already broken a distance record. 294 laps is the most ever completed in a 12-hour race, and there's more to go yet. So Paul Truswell's predictions of how far we go were absolutely bang on, and as expected. 3 minutes and 26 seconds to go. Lowndes, we can talk gap now. It's 1.9 seconds. That moment around the outside at turn 2 was everything for this motor race, because it just got book offline and gave Lowndes a little bit of breathing room, and the fight is on now for 3rd place. So let's take another look. Wild stuff on the outside, and Lowndes was in control of this, remember, because he can squeeze his opponent wide.
Yeah, on the McGuire's replay into Griffin's Bend. That was an awesome manoeuvre, and yeah, we held on to it. Oh, we've got it. No, we haven't. We thought we had the lead, but it's gone back. And look at how much it means for all these guys. They've worked for 4 days, not just this 12 hours.
Oh,
1st and 2nd are back together, and the leader gets held up. He's got to go one way or the other. Here comes Maximilian Berg down the middle, over the top of Brock Skyline, and there's nothing in it again. And actually, brilliant piece of driving for Craig Lowndes. He didn't commit himself one way or the other. He could have put himself offline and lost the lead. He knew that if he couldn't get past, neither could Maxi Berg. So he's controlled that. He's still going to have just enough, I think, as he comes out of the faulted tyres hairpin. It will be the last lap next time around, and this is going to be tight for 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Well, that's not over yet. If you can take a breath, do it now, because in the next 3 minutes we're going to find out who is on the podium, and it's been any 3 from 4 for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hours of 2014.
I bet Craig Lowndes wishes he had SLS type top speed, because that's the weakness of the Ferrari. Remember, fresh brakes on this HTP Mercedes as well, and that's making a difference. We've seen it. We saw how deep he went 2 laps ago at turn 2 to go around the outside of Craig Lowndes, but all that experience and goal of the V8 supercar legend held on in front. This is unbelievable stuff. 1:39 left on the clock. Not long to go in the 12 hour.
He can't move over over on him from there. He has to take the racing line, otherwise he compromises the speed up the mountain straight too much. John Bow watching his teammate. He knows what's going on. We are on the last lap. Did we see the last lap ball go out? Have we got one more? I think this is the last lap.
18-13, 18-13 plus one. Here goes Book. He'll try around the outside again, but Lowndes drives it down the middle of the road. He'll hold on.
Lowndes, he's got to be getting the power on nice and smoothly, and he does exactly that. I'm seeing one of the last two corners for the Mercedes-Benz using the additional braking power that he's got. He's got to be right there. I don't think he's quite got the power. They've really turned up the Maranello engine on the bright red Ferrari. Craig Lowndes actually has done all right after the safety car period, saved a bit of fuel, and here comes the issue again. It's going to be down to the traffic. It's the Donut King Lotus and holds up the leader, but once again Lowndes positions his car right in the middle of the road, but here comes Burke round the outside into Brock's Skyline. Last lap, half a lap to go for 2014 in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours.
Spare a thought for Peter Edwards, who's put a lot of his own money and time into building his program with Mark Coffey at Maranello Motorsport. And what about John Bow and Mick Asalo, the Flying Finn, who's done an outstanding job all weekend?
People are on the walls applauding this battle for the lead, and we're not over yet. The marshals are watching this just as much as we are. Down Conrod Straight for the final time. There's a third of a lap and three, possibly only two, outbraking manoeuvres left for Maxi Burke, and Craig Lowndes is putting it all on the line. This is for a Ferrari win. They've never won here. Maranello Motorsport, the emotions running high. This is Alan Simonson's car. Can they get this to the line? There's one more heavy braking down into Maguire's for the final time. The teams are on the pit wall, and he's not coming from that far back. He's not coming from that far back. Craig Lowndes brings home Alan Simonson's Ferrari and wins the Liqui-Moly 12 hours for 2014. Bathurst delivers.
The margin 4/10 of a second. 4/10, John Hindhoff and Paul Trustwell, after 296 laps and 1,835 kilometres of the best racetrack in the land.
I'm going to put my head in a bucket of iced water. Once again, the mountain lives up to the great race moniker. In October, it was the V8 Supercars. This weekend, it's been the GT3s. Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours breaks all the records. Let's go down to the pits.
John Bow, you just won the 12 hours of Bathurst. You suffered through penalties. You've gone through it all, but congratulations, you are the winner.
Yeah, well, we are the winners, the Maranello team. Those two guys, Craig and Mick, are unbelievable. Pete Edwards is a fantastic guy, fantastic driver. He's getting better all the time, and everybody that supports us. The two guys came from Italy to help us out, so like it's pretty amazing.
We'll go celebrate on the podium, John.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, what a result for Maranello Motorsport. Finally, the win that they deserved, and JB goes and gives Peter Edwards a big hug. He's been such a big part of this program. Great stuff. Let's find out who finished where and take a look at our class results. So after a record-breaking day on the mountain, it was a record-breaking margin of victory for Il Bellerosso, Ferrari and Maranello Motorsport. 4/10 of a second, the final margin between the Ferrari and HTP Motorsport Mercedes-Benz at the finish line. Erebus Motorsport were home in third place ahead of the amazing McLaren of VIP Pet Food Racing and Darrell Lee, with Phoenix Racing rounding out the top five in their Audi. In Class B, it was a fluctuating battle. The Grove Group Porsche got home at the end, ahead of the Icebreak Porsche in second. Class C, it was the Donut King Lotus that took the glory. The Seat Preserved in Class D, and Luke Jordan's Fiat won their battle of the Fiats in Class F. Meanwhile, 15th outright was a great result for the Mark Cars Australia Focus, led by Grant Denyer. Let's go to the podium. Here's Aaron Noonan.
In third place for Mercedes and Erebus Motorsport, Greg Crick, Jack LeBrock and Will Davison. In second place, coming from Germany, the HTP Mercedes-Benz team. What a race at the end. Maxi Book, Thomas Jaeger, last year's winner, and Harold Premat. And the winners, Ferrari has conquered the mountain. Maranello Motorsport, Mika Salo, Peter Edwards, John Bowe, and Craig Lowndes. Craig, come on in. We're running short on time. One quick question. Wow.
Look, it's a great honour to be part of the Ferrari guys, and obviously they were here this weekend for Al, and we did him proud, I think, at the end there. It was a hell of a battle. But look, to say hello to Levi and Chili back at home, but it's look, it's a great race. I'm looking forward to next year already.
Well done. Ferrari win at Bathurst in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. It's time for the traditional spraying of the champagne. Amazing Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. Ferrari have conquered the mountain. Craig Lowndes finally had the 12-hour title. He tried with Audi a few times, he never got there. John Bowe has won another Bathurst crown. And what about Peter Edwards too? And Mika Salo, all the way from Finland, picks up a trophy here at the mountain. What a special day it is for Maranello Motorsport and everybody involved. What an amazing race. We'll see you in 2015.
The 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours is all long hold. Now racing. Ball's down the inside. Contact. Puts the block. He gets them. There's carnage at the top of the mountain here. The leaders in Gisbergen.
To dramas for the class-leading Porsche.
There's another car got into him. The left car. Mika Salo will try and get the time from the Porsche. Yes, he can. Comes from way back. Mika Salo. Craig Lowndes brings up Alan Simonson's Ferrari and wins the Liqui-Moly 12 hours for 2014. Bathurst